There's heaps to talk about, man. I haven't seen you in years. I could have ironed my fucking shirt.
I can see the crease. That means you must have a stack of these nice t-shirts to wear whenever you feel like.
I do. This is one of my favorite t-shirts, actually. I don't know if you know him. He was a magazine guy at the time, Phillips. Do you remember Philip Swin?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
He was he had an alter ego called Kenji Nakamura or something, where he'd pretend to be a Japanese journalist at car shows. Just a really hilarious guy. And he's got a business called Level Up Clothing, and he made a whole bunch of exploded engine.
What engine is that? It looks like
it's an RB26.
Oh, it is an RB. I can see the covers now. Yeah.
I've exploded RB26s for real. So he got me a exploded RB26 shirt.
Dude, it was nice for you to send me that video link this morning. Because I haven't seen your face in a long while. And just watching that video, I saw I was actually on my way out, but I saw it was 9 minutes long. I'm like, I've got 9 minutes. So I sat there in the kitchen and watched it from start to end, and fuck, you guys are funny. It's like there's this real Aussie-ness about you guys in that video, and it just comes across so thick.
It's cool.
It reminds me of it reminds me of sometimes when you forget you have a really Australian accent until someone that you meet from overseas will go, fuck, your accent's so thick, and you're like, is it?
Is it though? Yeah.
And just watching you guys was just like, I mean, you weren't even on the piss, and you guys were like,
no. I think we get more Aussie when we're on the piss, maybe.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's just good to see, there was a little bit of a historical tidbit in there as well, which I didn't know. Something along the lines of you being one of the first people to actually be on that strip for Summernats.
We fluked that completely, man. So Wednesday night this week, which is what that video is from, was completely planned. That was the management at the Dragway said, hey, it'd be really cool to get you back. It's a completely new surface. They pulled the track up and they've relayed the track for a whole bunch of different reasons, which will ultimately make it faster and better and all that good stuff. But they said, look, for history's sake or for whatever it means, come and do it again. Be the first car down one of the lanes. And I jumped at it because it's an opportunity to have a skid and we can make some cool content with the boys. But 16 years ago, it was totally fluked. It was
right.
We did everything wrong. I said we did everything wrong in that video, and we really did. Stuff that we'd almost get in trouble for if we did it that way now.
But everyone was learning back then, though. 15 years ago,
including the track.
Yeah. Well, question about the track before I forget. I always have considered the actual Eastern Creek Raceway to be of international quality, only because I started with Wakefield, right? Like a lot of people do. And with Wakefield, you see how sort of grassroots it is. And then the first time you have a go on Eastern Creek, you're like, oh my God, this track is wide.
It's scary.
Fast. Yeah. And exactly right. The runoff it's not like Wakefield where you come off and you have a giggle,
you got several paddocks before you hit anything.
That's right.
Well, that's what it seems like anyway. No, Sydney Motorsport Park is scary. I remember being scared the first time I was there into turn one because it was ambition versus ability.
Yeah. Well, especially back then too, right? Because you didn't have as many opportunities as today, with all the track days and all that kind of stuff. But
totally.
I was just wondering, that jump from Wakefield to Eastern Creek, is the drag strip considered international quality? I would consider so it is. Oh, it obviously is now, but was it before?
It was from the day it opened, pretty much. Yeah. So if you remember, it was originally called Western Sydney International Dragway. It was WSID Wizard. Yep. And it was built as a NHRA specification track, which means obviously the length is the same, but the amount of drop or rise that it's allowed over the distance has to meet a standard, and it has certain height walls and all the stuff that racetracks have to be. But it was genuinely an international standard racetrack. I think they spent about $30 million to build it. A lot of people fought for a long time to get it there, and it's been long enough where it really needed a birthday. Really badly. So in the same breath as they've committed to build a new speedway on that site, at the venue, I should say. now that Parramatta is closed, the dirt track. That's actually being built at Sydney Dragway down the far end.
Holy shit! Yeah, I knew they've had plans for a
crazy.
while now, right? To do like a full-on big motorsport park. Like that's the concept, yeah.
Yeah. So at the same time, they said, well, we're going to spend $10 or $11 million to renovate Sydney Dragway and sort of bring it up to spec. The track, which you think would be a pretty simple bit of gear, so just a quarter mile of track and then about double that as braking area. There's so much to it. I don't completely understand it, but what I do know now is that the entire track is concrete, which makes it faster because concrete can be made stickier than regular asphalt. And there's no transition in the track anymore. So it used to be concrete to half track. And it'd wear at different rates. It'd expand at different rates. The glue they put on the track prep would stick to it in a different way. And some of the faster cars would get really unsettled at the transition at the half track line. So now it's all concrete. So it should be fast. I've never had a car fast enough to worry about it. So
I remember like years ago, I used to do those Burrows days at Eastern Creek, and I was hanging out a lot with the JDM yard guys who Jonas was dragging a little EG Civic.
Yeah.
And one night he said, if you're at the track already, I'm dragging tonight. So why don't you just, after your track day, just chill out for an hour or two, and then I'll meet you at the drags.
Awesome.
And then he's like, why don't you just, get your car scrutineed and have a go? And I just remembered I only did it once. I only dragged once. And you meet so many cool people lining up to get to the front. It takes fucking forever. It probably takes an hour to get from the far back all the way through to the lights, the bright lights,
Yeah.
And all these guys were putting ice on their engines and intercoolers and telling me, drop it at 7, drop it at 6, drop it at 8. I was just getting so confused. And
what were you in? The Civic?
The GTR, my GTR.
Oh.
So I was tracking my GTR that day, and it had semis and everything. So I thought, fuck, why not, right? And then Jonas was like, "Oh, make sure you go around the bit of water that they drop at the start, right? Because I wouldn't be able to do a big filthy burnout there."
Yeah.
And I was put up against an old school Monaro. It was like heavy metal. I was intimidated as fuck. I'm like, this thing's gonna destroy me. And they yelled out my name. They had some fucking hardcore heavy metal music blasting out of the
mad
speakers. And they're like, it's Justin Fox from Maroubra or some shit. I'm like, oh my God. And I looked
what have I got myself into?
The crowd. And I went past the fucking lights, the tree. And I went right past, and the white lights went douche douche. And I'm like, oh fuck, the guy's gone, you gotta back it up. I'm like, oh,
everyone does that once. Everyone does that once.
God, man. And I had all the nerves, and I'm like, fucking the music and everything. And I dropped it, and I have to admit, I dropped it many times before on the street, but that surface is for someone who's never done it.
Yeah,
that surface was something else, because I launched, it just threw me forward.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I was bouncing off the rev limiter, and I wasn't sure when to grab second. I grabbed it, and then in the end, it's just this loud wind noise and the car next to you, and it's dark, and you're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
It's over pretty quick, isn't it?
It is. And you turn around and you realize how far you've gone. The crowd is all the way at the fucking end, and you're driving really slow back there, and you don't know what time you did. It's completely did I do a decent time? I think I did a 12.9.
That's crazy for a first pass. That's awesome.
1.8 60 foot, is that right? 1.8.
Wow.
So
you did well.
The boys go again, and I'm like, you could feel the excitement you want to, but I'm like, nah, I don't want to get addicted.
And you've been thrashing it all day across the road as well.
True.
That's quality.
But I get it, bro. I think a lot of people at that time, we were running the JDM style tuning forums. We were really trying to push form follows function. Go for get some, don't cut your springs, don't get springs, get proper coilovers, get damper adjustment. Let's stiffen up your chassis. And we were always sort of leaning towards cornering as being the thing, you know? And so drag was like maybe something that people would so quickly and easily pay out.
Yeah.
Until you give it a go.
Until you do it, right?
I swear I'd never said a single bad thing ever again in my life after that about
I had a similar first experience at the drags to you. I was G'd up and ready to go. I just bought my first fast car.
That was your 33, the maroon one?
The maroon 33, yeah, which I've just bought back this year. You've had that
forever. Oh, wow. So you did sell it.
Yeah. I sold it about 5 years ago, and then it came up for sale and I had to have it back. It's a forever car now.
Yep.
I'm slowly undoing all the things that I spent 15 years wrecking about it. But I think I launched it harder on the way to the track that night. It was at Eastern Creek Raceway. It was before the Sydney Dragway was built. Just in that last year before they stopped running drag racing there. And I was so excited. And then I pulled the helmet on and the guy on the start line said, "Put your window up, champ." And I went, "Okay." And it got really quiet. And I'm like, wow, this feels different and weird.
Yeah.
And I was nervous as shit. And I did a little burnout. It was only, a tiny, really tiny nervous burnout.
Yeah.
And staged. And did okay, and didn't stage with the back wheels or anything. I had that part under control. I was shitting myself, and then the lights came down, and I saw the green, which I later learnt it's too late.
Yeah, right.
And when I let go of the clutch, the car took off, and all the paperwork for that night covered my hands. I couldn't see the dash. I couldn't see the tacho. I couldn't hear the engine properly because I had a helmet on for the first time, and the window was up.
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh no, what do I do? Shit." Put it into second gear and started to calm down and went, "Hang on, I'm already losing by a long way." Right. The other car's gone. But sure. It was just sort of the process. By the time I put it into third gear, I was putting the paperwork under the back seat and went, "Hang on a minute. This is just driving in a straight line. I get it."
Yeah.
And then got my time slip. And I don't know what I expected to be able to do. I knew how much power the car made. And I knew roughly what it weighed, and I'd sort of done some maths on it. And I'm like, oh, I think it was a 14.4 or something. And I went, oh, I don't know if that's good or not. I think I'll have another go. And then the second time around, I went a tenth or two quicker. And something changed in my brain. And I've been sick for drag racing ever since.
Wow, second time.
That pursuit. It wasn't the first pass. Because the first pass I spent most of the time shitting myself and being confused.
Dude, it was the first night though. I mean, that's the thing. Totally. Like, you don't go out to the racetrack and sign up for a track day and do one session. You do multiple sessions, right? And the type of people that don't get the bug, it's probably because their car broke on the day, or they. You know how sometimes people have lunch and then you get a bit tired after lunch, you go out, then you really have an accident or something like that happens too. And I think, I think being scared is a good thing, but when you have a good first time where you haven't broken anything, and then and I think it's the time too, man. I think it's when you have something that's timed, like that whole chasing
that's what did it for me. That's what did it for me. It was the PB chasing, and I knew. I had a conversation with my dad because my dad's a petrol head, which is probably why I am. And he said to me, "That's awesome that you're racing. I'll come along and watch sometimes. That'd be great. I'd love to. Just remember there's always someone faster." And he wasn't being defeatist.
It's a good lesson.
He was just saying it doesn't matter how awesome you are as a driver. It doesn't matter how fast you think your car is. There's somebody who's going to be luckier on the day, somebody who's got more money than you, somebody who's there every single week forever. And his message really was try not to get too caught up in it. Like don't. And
I mean, politics, man. That's politics.
I mean, I didn't listen. I relearnt that lesson quite a while down the road. Right. But it wasn't that first lap that hooked me. It was the second one because it was a little bit better. And my brain on the return road went straight to, well, if I do this and this different or better or more or less, I can maybe go a couple of tenths quicker. And then you
were still chasing a PB though. Like,
totally.
I still think like I'm the same way. Like I know that I can chuck a race car driver into the GTR and they'll smash my times, but what's the point of that?
Right? Well, it did. The PB chase was what it became, man, because as soon as you go 14.0, you're like, well, that's basically a 13.9, but is it? So you have to go and do that. And then my 13-second car became a 12-second car, became an 11-second car, became a 10-second car. And then I went, it's too hard to have a modified street car. I don't like the attention. I'm going to build a race car. Yeah. And then sold the street car to build the race car. And in the time it's taken me to do that, street cars are fast.
Well, what was the race car? Another
R33. I'm sick in the head.
I just find it funny. Like, you know what I find funny, because we're about the same age. So we were there at the beginning of the sort of JDM sort of scene in Australia. And I just found it funny. Like I don't want to sound racist or nothing, but if I do, I don't give a fuck really. But it's like, it's one of those things where in the beginning, I really saw the certain marques hate each other. That's why I started the forums in the first place, right? Because the Nissan guys hated the Honda guys, and you pay it out for being front wheel drive and all this kind of shit, whatever, right? Or underpowered and no turbos and shit. But what I've always
all the turbo lag, none of the turbo.
Yeah, exactly, right. and it was so thick. That was so thick in the scene, like how much trolling was going on. Like, people complain about trolls today. It's always fucking been there, man. Like, people were trolling hard on the forums. And I just find it funny, like, none of us are Japanese. Like,
it's crazy.
Like, I might look more Japanese than you do, but I just find it funny, like, to see a whole bunch of white guys that I was hanging out with at the time fucking so into their Nissans. And it's like, even your plate, what was your plate?
It was Turismo after the PlayStation game.
Yeah. That's where I started too, to Gran Turismo. But even Gran Turismo, it's a Japanese game, and they've sort of elevated the Japanese cars in there. Like,
that's what made Japanese cars cool for me.
Same.
Back when I liked GTRs.
I played with an R32 in that game, and I won the Nismo version. That was awesome. That was it for me. I liked the Gran Turismo 2 did it for me big time. It's just the culture of it, right? Like the culture that the passion that they have for cars comes through, and just even
there's something like that all the time. For my dad, it was probably touring cars and Bathurst that flicked the switch that made him into that. For me, it was PlayStation and Gran Turismo 2. For kids 10 years younger than me, it was probably
Need for Speed.
Fast and the Furious. It was probably Fast and the Furious movies. That's, and imagine being an American into Skylines and not being able to have them until the last year or two.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Gran Turismo though. It is super pure. Like it is so pure, man, because it is like, it's all about the line, and you can beat a more powerful car with an underpowered car if it was tuned right. And you had that adoration as well of like watching a replay and just checking out how sexy your car looks in a replay.
All the camera angles.
Yeah. And it's like, I still believe that's more pure than like Fast and Furious is all about Hollywood and the NOS. And then later on, you like have all these guys that are trying to have these hot import girls and trying to make a car park look like a nightclub, but dude, it's never going to work,
No. You know what? The chasing PBs was probably what hooked me, but being the underdog and racing much more powerful cars of a similar type, or at least JDM type cars. Yeah. Oh man, there's nothing better, and that's where the GDR rivalry thing happened, because both all my Skylines have ever had a GDSTs, right? They're rear wheel drive, and it's when you go to a Skylines Australia Sydney Dragway or Western Sydney International Dragway event, like a track hire, private track hire, and we'd go as a club. We'd go as SAU New South Wales and hire the track for the day and have as many passes as you want. And you'd line up against a car with an extra turbo, an extra diff, a bigger engine, and 100 kilowatts more than what you've got. And because you've been there every Wednesday night practicing for the last 18 months, you chop them.
Yep, 100%.
And it is so satisfying.
It is,
and it's unreal. Doing more with less has always been something, and it's a way to reassure yourself that you can still get some enjoyment out of it, because there's a lot of cars out there with a lot of money that you shouldn't be beating.
Dude, I still do that with everything in life. Like for me, it was the Burrows days, right? So Burrows days are about fancy cars. So I had an Alfa Romeo at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have the GTR yet, and I'd modified that and put on the dyno and did all that stupid shit to it. And then some real estate agent came up to me, knocked on my window, and said, "Do you track this thing?" I'm like, "Nah." They said, "Well, do you want to come out to these Burrows days?" And I got sick of that car pretty soon, and I wanted more power, and I wanted to have my dream car from Gran Turismo. So I bought that R32 GTR. And because I had already gone to so many Burrows days, they were okay with me having the only Japanese car there. Like it was all Maseratis, Porsches, Ferraris, just all the exotic shit. And I've got photos of me chopping them all, like just in this shitty old car, It was still fairly stock then. And it's like you said, like being the underdog, and such a good feeling. And
the car was doing it before I was doing it, man. The previous owner, the guy that imported my Red 33 into Australia, his name was Paul. I think it was 99. And he used to race with the Porsche Club guys at Oran Park. And Wakefield and wherever they'd race. And I think he had history where he'd had a Porsche, or he'd had a car that he used to race it with those guys. And then he bought this thing and took it to White Line in Sydney and said, you did the suspension on my other cars and they were really good. Do the suspension on this. And they said, what is it? And he said, it's a Nissan Skyline. Isn't that hilarious? White Line. You think how many White Line suspension kits they've sold over the years. So they had the car for however many weeks or months or whatever, and developed the R33 suspension kit on my car. And then he'd turn up and race with the Porsches and sort of, stick with them. So it's been
shooting it up,
fighting the good fight for the underdog for way longer than I've had it.
No, I just love it, man. Like, just back to the whole, like, you're super Aussie, but you're like rocking these Japanese cars, and you're passionate about it. And it is the underdog thing still, And even I just remembered like going to an Advan event where they were promoting wheels. And Advan had some nice wheels at the time, like really nice wheels. And I was intimidated to meet Ian Baker, but I could hear him. I could hear him from the other side of the room. I could hear his voice. And I'm like, I just knew he was that guy that hung out with all these other Aussie guys who had really tough GTRs. And I'm like, fuck, these guys are
the Mark Berries of the world. And
right, it was Mark Berry. Yeah, it was Mark Berry and was it Croydon?
Yeah,
it was Croydon, and it was like, and I was just like, fuck, like here I am running like a full-on JDM sort of thing, but it's mostly the Honda boys, So even when I was going out to the racetrack and the guys like, I did have one of the most powerful cars there. Like at the Circuit Club days, I'd be like coming second. And I was like,
wow.
But that's before people got fast, man. People got fast.
Yeah. It's happened in the street car world now, dude. Like fast forward to, I sold what was basically a 9-second car, high 9-second street car, because it was too hard. It's too high maintenance, not interested. I don't want to get done by the cops. It'll be defected off the road, too hard. Sold it with the idea being, buy a buddy's R33 as a roller, which already had the roll cage and the GDR diff and all the rest of the stuff that you need, and put an engine in that, or take the engine out of the red car, put it in the white car and race that. But then the project suffered scope creep where, well, I don't just want to go 9s. Well, I'll try and go 8s and then build an engine to go 7s. And that's what's in the race car now. And it's sort of 3/4 finished. But in the 5 years it's taken me to get to that point, street cars, it's easy. You can run 8s in street cars like it's nothing, like air conditioning, heavier than stock.
Well, Teslas weren't around before either.
Oh man, but even in the import world, making an RB make 1,000 horsepower is such a known quantity. It's like making 400 10 years ago. It's easy. Yeah. Like it's not just simple or lots of people know how to do it. It's easy.
Yep.
And the parts are largely from Australian manufacturers.
Yep, they figured shit out.
They've done it, man. And I'm like, well, why would I have a race car?
Yeah.
That I have to tow to the track. That I have to tow.
So many people are in the same position as that, dude. Like so many people from 10, 15 years ago did that. Decided to go all out on a project, and then it could have been a time attack car, but like it might never have seen the track. It's just one of those. I think it's just one of those things, man. It's like if you don't know, if you don't try, you'll never know. And then people give it a go, and it's like, we're not open checkbook kind of people. Like it's different. Like if I know a few guys that they own restaurants and shit. Like fucking open checkbook, no worries. The car will be done in 3 months.
Yeah. And I've never begrudged them because I really like that they exist. Even the cars that I would never build myself, like I'm not a GDR guy. And some guys will, like everything that comes out of Matux and Birong and Croydon and CMV, all of the cars that those guys build that run 6s and 7s and 8s, they build such quality.
Yep.
And most of them I wouldn't own. But I'm so glad they exist. Because they're awesome. Like it's just sound. RB is the best sounding engine on earth.
Yeah,
that's not up for debate.
And again,
I just love that they're doing them still.
Well, it also allows you to be the underdog and potentially beat some of those guys with the open checkbooks. That again is another feel good thing, right? Like
it feels pretty good.
Yeah, like I've seen some of these cars out on when I take them out to the track, and they can't corner for shit. Like there's just too much power.
Yeah.
And they're just like understeering everywhere. I'm like, well,
I don't get to weigh in on who can corner. I'm not a corners guy at all.
At all? Have you been out to like?
Yeah, I've done all of the things, but not successfully. Yeah, I've had a great time.
But isn't it the same? Like you get a time and then you go, okay, maybe I want to beat my PB kind of thing.
Don't know. I like the idea. They're different challenges. They're different challenges in the same sort of world. I guess I like having too much power and trying to tame it.
Yeah.
And it's a different. It's means to an end. You know, there's a lot more going on in circuit cars. It's a different skill set.
It's a different zone.
Yeah,
it's a different zone. Like honestly, like I said, from doing that, the one run, but also just from like going out all the way out to Eastern Creek I live in Maroubra, so it's a bit of a drive, but just to go and support the JDM yard guys when they're dragging, I can see the pressure. Like he's only done 3 runs and he's fucking tired. He's not tired because physically he's tired. He's tired because mentally it's like, just the wait before you get to go again, and then you can fuck up your 10 seconds, and then you have to wait again, and it's like it's a long night, and it's like it's tiring on just getting everything right in the one sort of shot.
I got too caught up in it for a long time. I actually I raced, and then Andra, who's the cams for drag racing, if you like. Introduced a sport compact championship. So they had a traditional drag racing championship for, the V8 guys and, more traditional drag cars.
That's what Jonas was racing.
Yeah, he was. Totally. Well, they introduced a championship and it was 4 rounds. This is 2005-6. And it was 4 rounds, 2 in Sydney and 2 at Willowbank in Queensland. And I thought, well, I can get to the Sydney rounds easy enough. I could probably beg, borrow, steal, save, and get to the Willowbank rounds if I get some help from, my mechanic and a mate with a ute and all of that kind of stuff, bit of sponsorship. And, we're talking about an 11-second car or a 12-second car that becomes an 11-second car with nitrous, which is the best invention ever. And I chased it, and there was 100 we went to Jamboree, and there was 120 something cars in my class. And
that's a lot.
That was just for one event. We had 4 events, right?
That's a lot of cars, yeah.
At the end of the series, I won it.
Holy shit.
And it's about consistency at that point. So it's not who's the fastest car. It's dial your own racing. And I won it, and I was stoked. And everything was going great. I'd broken a bunch of axles and lost a bunch of races, but won enough to get enough points to win. And I was stoked. They gave me a little plastic trophy and high-fived the crew and thanked my sponsors, and it was good. Came back the next year, and I'm a serious racer now, right?
Oh, well, fuck, if you won before, yeah.
Too serious. And even though I was racing with, I reckon, 10 other cars who I'd consider mates amongst the 50 other cars, even though I was with family and sponsors and mates and whatever at each race meeting, I was taking it too seriously. And because there was pressure there was added pressure because, you know, everyone, you're a marked man for whatever that equates to. And every little thing would just shit me. You know, I lost the 10 mil, throw the 12 mil across the pits, losing it over. And we're not racing for sheep stations. Like, if it cost you $1,000 to do the race meeting, if you got out of it cheap, the prize money would be $400 if you won. You know, so you're not doing it to make money. It's all personal glory. No. It's all really vainglorious, just self-achievement or whatever you want to call it. And I really didn't enjoy the next year at all. The car wasn't behaving, and I was driving like shit because of it. And it was a drama. And then we got to the first round the following season after having a shit year, and I'd blown my standard RB25 up. We'd put a bigger turbo on it, and long story short, I killed it. Yeah. And I'd already paid to enter that first round. And my wife had just bought a brand new Mitsubishi Lancer in 2006. And I rang Ray Box, who's a champion of a man who ran Jamboree for 25 years, and said, can you change my entry to front wheel drive?
Wow.
What? This is a standard Lancer, dude. It makes like 120 horsepower. And he said, what are you up to? And I said, oh, you'll see. So it's bracket racing, right? So I left it in drive and cut decent reaction times and won the meet. And it was a piss take, though, because there's guys that are in the front wheel drive, guys that remember the Turbo Swift, the Turbo GDIs were a big thing, and all of that kind of thing. They were taking it really seriously. Yeah, and I was just there stuffing around. But I wanted to win. Yeah. And it was, but it's not really the done thing, because the standard car is going to do the same thing all the time, right? Yep. And man, we finished qualifying, and I opened the boot and pulled out the picnic table and chairs and opened the esky, and we ate our packed lunch. And my wife's a teacher. She pulled out some marking, and we're doing that. And then we had to pack it all into the boot because I don't want the car to weigh less for eliminations. So we loaded it all back into the boot and ran 1650s all day and won the meet.
Oh my God.
And I had such a good time. And it was so chill, and there was no pressure, because if I lose in the slowest car in a front wheel drive category, who cares? Yeah. No one cares.
So what's your takeaway though? Like, that's a huge, whatever you learned that year, like obviously.
Well, it was settled down mainly. It was, you're not racing for sheep stations. You're the only one that cares if this doesn't go well. Everybody else is going to have a great day, unless they come across you when you're in a shit mood, and you might make them have a bad day. Chill out. Just totally right. Chill out. Now when I go to the track, if I break an axle first pass, it means we can go up to the bar and watch and drink and hang out with mates and maybe help them with their car or something. It's not the end of the world. So now it's like, okay, maybe there's certain things where you can't be or shouldn't be overly competitive, because just something changes, and it's not just about personal achievement anymore. It just honestly turned into a bit of a dickhead.
Comes with age. Just comes with age down. Too. Obviously, it comes with age.
Old Adrian thinks young Adrian's a fucking idiot. About so many things. About so many things.
But it sounds like
how long's the podcast?
Well, but it just sounds like you learned from one year to the next, though, which is not everyone gets that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really speak to many people that have figured that bit out yet.
And in hindsight, missed opportunities. Missed opportunities were celebrating properly with my buddy Shane, who won the championship the year after me. And giving him the credit that he deserved. Making an opportunity to thank sponsors that had helped me, even though I was losing everything.
Exactly.
And those people could still have had an awesome experience because of me rather than in spite of me. And it's not trying to be overly philosophical, but I could have done that a lot different. And racing that, I've still got it. It's got 400,000 Ks on it. You've driven it. It was the white one that you moved house with. You remember that? We swapped cars. It's that Lancer. That's a national event winner.
Holy shit! No, you're bang on though. Like when I used to be in a 3-piece rock band in university, I used to play around like shitty pubs around, Redfern and stuff for $30 a night. We'd split it and get a beer each, right, at the end of the night. But because it was such emotional heavy kind of music, I'd get on the stage and I'd fucking have a shit time. Yeah. I'd be so angry. I'd be screaming. You know, people came along to support, and at the end, like, I'd have to help the drummer pack his drum kit down. I'm like, fuck you. You fucking pack your own fucking drum kit down. I've already packed like my shit guitar
tonight anyway.
That's the thing. I was just so angry, and in retrospect, like, sadly for me, I didn't have that opportunity. Like at least the second year, you got there, and then maybe the third year you realize, like, fuck, this is not the right way. This is the right way. For me, I just kind of like terminated everything.
Because, fuck this, I'm out.
Which is a real shame, because I still have that itch of like, oh fuck, what could have been, and you know, now I'm not playing music at all, and I'm like, man, that, you know,
could have been Sydney's answer to the Blue Notes. You don't know.
Just burnt out though. It's not so much trying to chase fame, but it's just trying to, like you said, like trying to find a happy lane, you know, a nice sort of balance, and potentially not burning out to a point where you've got to give something that you love up. Because you can't stand yourself when not everything goes your way, kind of thing.
Well, it's affected stuff that I do now. So I'm right into bikes now, and
bikes ride cycling.
Cycling, and ride every opportunity I've got. And there's so many opportunities to race bikes.
You ride road bikes though, right?
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities to race, and I've actively avoided and pushed back against racing them because I love it so much, and I don't want to ruin it, because I know that there's still a chance, because it's not cars, it's different. So I might, you know, not approach it the right way. I know that there's every chance that I'll just turn into a spastic and just, it'll ruin it for me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, let's not compete.
You're being a bit hard on yourself there, because cycling has the added benefit of fitness as well. So yes, you can push your body too hard and start to break it, but like, fuck, that's a good hobby to get into, man.
I'm not worried about breaking the body. I've been off the bike for 3 weeks because I crashed, but just not the racing thing, you know, taking the racing too seriously and sucking, you know, just vampiring the enjoyment out of it.
I understand that.
Yeah. So you know, there's other things we can be competitive with these days, and you know, you get old. Fuck, we sound old, Justin. You get old. You work out that other people can win if you win as well. Like philosophical bullshit.
Look, I think the young people think that we're old, but in reality, we know that, you know, probably 80, 90, or 100. That's old.
Yeah, that's old as balls. Imagine 80-year-old Adrian. He'll be bent over. He'll probably still be drinking bourbon. And 80-year-old Justin will probably look something like 42-year-old Justin.
Dude, no, cycling, I've always been into cycling my whole life. I hated cars, actually. I was crazy about cars as a kid because my dad was into cars, but as soon as I could get a bicycle, oh my God. And I got into mountain biking hard. I used to compete. I used to race, race in the downhill stuff in Canberra and shit with my mates from high school.
Yeah. Smash up Stromlo. Was Stromlo a thing back then?
Stromlo wasn't a thing. No. So when I created after the JDM style tuning forums, I got off cars for a little bit, and I created a cycling forum, and most of us were mountain bikers. So we started competing again. But man, I was shit. Like, just it's mostly endurance stuff, and I've never been good at the downhill stuff. Is way too gnarly now. It's like if you don't get that jump right or something, you're fucked. So
big consequence. My buddies, I got a lot of mountain biker buddies, and their kids, the shit I see them send it off.
Oh no, it's too much, because the bikes are like lounge chairs now. Like they got so much suspension that you just need to keep the pedals straight.
You say that though, I don't reckon oh man, I don't know what I would have done when I was 12, but I doubt I would have sent it off some of the stuff they're sending it now, and it's just normal, and they all do it.
Yeah, but the suspension is it's like trail bikes, man. It's proper oil-based suspension, not just springs or nothing. You know, like
I didn't have a bike from when I was 12 to when I was 36, and man, I wish I had a bike that whole time.
Yeah, I want to get one of those electric mountain bikes now because I still love the downhill technical stuff, because it's something about like riding on the road for me. Like, I've done the Sydney to Wollongong ride many times on road bikes, and you're basically rolling half the way.
Yeah.
Like you can roll half the way. Whereas when you're mountain biking, there's so much rocky shit on the road on the path that you have to balance all the time. So like a 30-kilometer loop around Loftus Oval is like it's equivalent to a 60-kilometer road.
Man, mentally it's like 100K. I really like doing long rides. So
you guys are crazy. Like I know people
like
that
100, 200Ks, whatever, go out and do 6 or 7 hours on the bike, and it's awesome. And I really like that. If I do a 30K mountain bike ride, I think I've done one ever. The concentration required is like I've done 6 hours on the bike.
And you're hardly ever on your seat because it's just so technical. And there's something about being away from the cars and the fucking fumes, and there's something nice about being in nature too. Like it's not far for me to go to like Kentland, Menai, Loftus.
Yeah.
Just even when I get there, it just feels like it's almost like whenever I come home and I see the ocean, I'm like, fuck, that feeling is so nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something about it. Like I really need to get out there and do it again. But part of the reason why I stopped riding is sometimes you love your mates, but like it's almost going back to that competitive nature again.
Yeah.
And sometimes some guys are just like, either they're going to buy the best fucking most expensive shit or they're going to go that much harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
That it's like, and the ego, oh man, I've got a huge ego, but like
you got to get in with a good bunch of guys, man. Being similar in terms of fitness and skill is half the battle. Because if you all know that the 3 or 4 guys that you ride with regularly, that you're either slower or faster than them on any given day, it's pretty good. If you ride with I got a couple of buddies of mine that are just otherworldly compared to what I'm like, I ride with them, but I know that I'm the anchor, right?
Yep.
But I'm that guy for other mates of mine. So it's
exactly,
you just
got to mix it up.
The riding on the road thing is a bit different for me, man, because I grew up in Wollongong and I live in Shell Harbour. So like 5 minutes from my door is Jamberoo, and it's farms and mountains, and you don't see cars. So it's easier to ride on the road here. If I lived in the city or closer to Sydney, it'd be more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, like with the road riding, I grew up around Centennial Park, and I've circled that thing more times than I'd like to admit. But it's like, if I wasn't in an environment where there's more to see rather than the fucking same thing over and over again, and that's ridiculous now anyway, because they've got like zebra crossings and children tracks and children everywhere, and they got rollerbladers and kids on scooters, and it's like, this isn't even Centennial Park anymore.
That's why we travel to ride so much. So we go and do the cyclotourism thing from all of the local and state governments are all over it now, because people, like you said, they'll just ride in the same place all of the time and get jack of it. So where I live, 5 minutes down the road is Kiama, and that's where an event called L'Etape Australia is going to be. It's run by Tour de France people.
I was about to ask you whether you watch that or not.
Yeah, I do. Recorded. I can't do 3 o'clock in the morning every day, but that event, it's a 1 day, 130K ride, 3,000 meters of climbing, whatever it is. But it's 10 minutes from my house. There are people coming to this region in March from all over the world to do that ride, and they are stoked that they're coming to Kiama because it's got Macquarie Pass and Jamberoo Mountain Road and all of the beautiful climbs that they've seen and watched videos of and whatever. It's like me going to the Pyrenees or something and riding through France.
No, I get it.
And Spain.
But so Australia's beautiful.
Oh, dude. There's so many good places to go here. And I was supposed to be in Europe in July of this year with the family for a holiday, and that, we know how that went. But all it's done is made me go, well, okay, I haven't seen all of Australia by a long shot.
No.
We're not going overseas for the next 18 months, 2 years. Let's look at where we can go. And
bikes are really, there's really good gear for you to carry your bike easily as well now. To chuck it on planes and these beautiful fucking luggage for you.
I just take the wheels off and pack it in its own bag and check it as luggage. It just goes as oversized luggage. They don't even charge you for it these days. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fucking mad. And the technology is like one thing I hate is like because I used to work in a bicycle shop too, right? At some stage, I just fucking lost my shit.
Yeah.
This was before ZEN Garage, I think, and I just went, fuck it, I'm just gonna get 100% into bikes. So I worked for MC Cyclery down the road, and I invested in that business to a point where the owner of that shop and I were going to open up the giant shop in the city. So I did like a lot of planning for that shop. In the end, we had a falling out, and that shop went ahead. It's still in the city. And I started ZEN Garage. That's when I started ZEN Garage.
Wow.
Fuck, I was about to go all in on a bicycle shop. Got fucked over. What am I going to do now?
Just noped out of it. Fuck this. I'm going to go play cars.
Yeah. But working in a bicycle shop. I forget what I was going to say. Fuck. I do this all the time when I've had a few to drink.
Honestly, working in a bicycle shop, it would be the worst job for me because it doesn't pay enough unless you own it. But damn, it'd be a cool place to be.
Dude, you end up buying more bikes than anything because you get them at cost price, right? Yeah. And I was too slow anyway, man. Like I did mostly their internet stuff because they'd sit there and secretly time me like, you know, you got to go downstairs, get a bike out of a box, and then you got to make it. And I'd be like, I don't want to scratch this thing. I'd put it together nice, and they'd be timing me like, fuck, you know, Geordie's done 3 bikes. You're still working on your first one.
Yeah, but mine's perfect.
Yeah. No, but dude, I was about to say, like, I being in a bicycle shop and stuff, and being on the forums and stuff. What I hate about any community is when these scenes come along, right? Because this trendy shit comes along, and then everyone jumps on the fucking bandwagon, whether it's good or not. And I'm not I've never been hardcore into road riding. I've loved it, but like I've never had that full carbon bike, and you know you guys got gears with like batteries now. It's all electronic shifting. And
it's awesome.
Right? But now I'm seeing like cyclocross bikes with suspension. And I'm like, come on. I'm like,
crazy.
Come on, guys.
Road bikes are going through this weird transition where they're so close to hardtail mountain bikes. It's ridiculous.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's becoming like first generation mountain bikes, which had shitty suspension with only like 1-inch travel or something. I'm like, oh, come on, guys, don't do this. Like,
why would you build a hardtail with 25 mil of suspension? Like, why would you do that to yourself?
That's what I mean. It's getting there, you know, like.
Do you reckon all the scenes when they get clicky and stuff, that they all follow a pattern? Like they all end up eating themselves to a certain point?
Yeah, it's not going to last. It's like, you know, like even with the mountain bikes, like. Actually, the mountain bikes have gotten, like I said, lounge chairs before. They've decided to go heavier instead of lighter. So it's funny how we know as guys who are into performance stuff, usually the answer is the lighter you go, performance you can squeeze out of something. They've just decided to go, fuck it, let's just go all out. Let's go huge amounts of travel. Yeah, and let's get the weight back so the travel works better and make it lounge chair like, so it'll, you know, save your ass if you do a big mistake. Your forks won't bottom out and pongo you off. They'll sort you out somehow. So these bikes
I'm looking at the scene now. Like in bikes, and thinking, how would 20-year-old me have engaged with it from a community perspective? I think I would have latched onto one or the other, so road or mountain, and been that hardcore into it that I would have been part of what was shit about it. Where now I'm like, I don't know. Do you like bikes? I like bikes. Let's talk about bikes. Or cars. Do you like cars? What do you like? I don't know. You might like a Westinghouse 1922. Tell me about it.
Exactly.
That could be cool. You know, whereas I think I wouldn't have had that conversation years ago. Yeah. I wouldn't have been interested because it's tribal. It's like, okay, we're into bikes, but what kind of bikes? You know, we're into cars, but you're a Honda guy. You're an Oz Honda guy. You're not trying, and I'm a Skylines Australia guy. Why would we talk? Why would we ever talk?
Because you've managed to chop your ego down, and it's like, as you get older, it's all about acceptance, right? Like honestly, like and as you know, if you've got good mates in cycling and you've got good mates where you work. It is about mutual respect, man. And when you're younger, you don't know that shit. When you're younger, you don't care about mutual respect, or you just want people to respect you, right?
Yeah, it's one-way street.
Exactly, and we've just learned now that life is about, like, it takes two to tango, man. I just think that's the way it is. It's like, even when I think about myself in all you're married, but I'm not married. But when I think about myself in all these old long-term relationships that I had, I was always a dick in the end, like just just part of being young. And we also know as guys that we tend to be younger for longer. Mentally. Oh, yeah. Like even in high school, you remember, like you were probably the same as me in that, like, you would date the girls in the year below you, not the same year, because those girls weren't interested in us. They were interested in guys that were the year above.
It's easier to be more impressive if you're older. There's a certain amount of cachet that comes with it. So you're right.
It's a knowledge thing, and it's like I've always said it. Like when I was 18, it wasn't real knowledge, it wasn't real skill. It was a shit ton of attitude, and that's what got me over the line.
Yeah.
And then when I finally learned that, oh fuck, I can actually get good at something. When you get good at something, that's when you have real confidence, right? The confidence is different to ego. Like
there's very few experts that are 20 years old.
Yeah, and I hate putting 20-year-old kids down, but I feel like I've been doing it for like 20 years. It's so weird, but it's almost like I just feel like it's gotten to a point now where some of the questions that young people ask me are just so the wrong question.
Yeah.
It's like they're asking me a question. I'm like, man, you could just go to Google for that. Like if you ask something more difficult, I'd be more impressed and I'd give you more time. But if you're asking me, it's almost like when you remember like some young kid going up to you saying, oh, how much power does your car make? And it's like, oh my God, that question again. It's the wrong question.
All of it.
It's
not enough. Question, I don't know. Yeah. It was funny. I loved your chat with Hawkins last week or the week before. It was I consider him a very close mate. So there wasn't anything particularly revealing about it from my perspective, but it's funny that he's got a particular thing that people always ask, and it's broadly it's media. It's the media's fault. Not mainstream media, but like enthusiast media and magazines and YouTube. It's their fault. He hates this question. How much boost does it run? Because it's a wholly irrelevant metric. Unless you're comparing two exactly the same things. So you're comparing two standard things and there's one's making this much boost and one's making another. It's just a measure of resistance to flow. And it's the first question that people would always ask. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but tell me how much. What do you say? How much boost, bro? It was always how much boost is it, bro?
I've never heard that question, but
yeah,
only because, like you said, it's like it's got nothing to do with anything, right?
No.
Like your turbo setup, everything is like. But obviously, it's coming from a kid who has like a, boosted triple S.
It's probably coming from a kid who has a shitbox with no boost. Or has a stack of Performance Imports magazines or Zooms that high, because there isn't an article in a magazine anywhere
that asks
about a turbo car that doesn't mention it.
I never got asked, but that was Auto Salon magazine. They didn't ask me how much.
Yeah, Auto Salon's probably the exception.
Yeah, maybe.
Auto Salon was funny. It's funny being involved in the event business now and in the contemporary show scene, comparing how cars are judged now to how they used to be judged at Auto Salon, where a car with 7 televisions would be judged higher than a car with 6 for that particular aspect. And it was quantity over quality.
I saw Auto Salon change, man, because I was one of those fuckwits that was like pushing the whole track spec kind of JDM stuff. So
you've put that shit on your car. Why have you put it on your car? Why does it make it better?
Because I've always spent my whole life as being like, admittedly, a good shit stirrer. Like that's what I am. Like I like to shit stir so that people then talk about stuff, and then like it's like I throw something in the room, and then everyone's fighting over it, and I'm like sitting here in the next room just
just watching.
And I like that, and so like. pushing cars to be cleaner, less is more, was so against the grain when it came to that show. But like when I started to see it happen, I was like, I'm the kid in the candy store, because I'm going there and I'm sort of, you know, the guy with the Lord of the Rings car with like bags of that white fluff shoved under the wheels to make it look like the car was doing a burnout. And then I'm looking at like, you know, Mark from JDM Yards, like fucking, you know, facelift DC2, JDM front end DC2. And I'm like, I'm just laughing because I know what looks better. I know
why are they in the same show? Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of knew, I could see that the sec spec was going to die. And
now it's coming back.
It is, man. When I went to that Auto Rush. I had a hand
Brian show in Sydney.
Yeah. So I helped that guy out with running that show, and the Osmonds were there, right? And they had this car which had like spray painted fucking soccer balls on the side of it and stuff like that.
That was a Sony car.
Yeah, okay.
So that was a Sony build from back in the day, man. I was a Hot 4 subscriber for a long time.
I know you know more about this than I do, man. I that's why I respect you so much, because you're like a walking encyclopedia, probably, right, of the car scene.
But I remember dumb shit. Dumb shit. Like I remember that the Osmonds WRX has engraved brake discs that say something. Why do I remember that?
but it's show though. That's the thing. Like I saw these guys, they were parking their car, and you know, because it was set up, right? So all the cars were all over the shop, and they were setting up, and it had a twin plate clutch in it. The car had a twin plate in it. I could hear it. And then,
rattling.
Yeah, I could hear it rattling, right? But then we all know how to drive a twin plate. You don't have to. You can either drive a twin plate normally, or you can try to pretend it's hard to drive. Do you know what I mean? Like, you rock up to a car, mate. You can like sort of kick it on, and make it. And he was doing that.
Look how racy my car is, because it's so hard to drive.
So this dude was like just backing it up into its spot, and he was really making it
laboring the point,
revving and like kicking it back a couple of inches, and then going back another couple of inches. And my mate and I were just like sort of looking and realized that we were sort of laughing, but next thing you know, he's staring right at us.
Yeah, wow.
And we were laughing, and he was like fucking ready to jump out and deck us. And I just realized, like, okay, fuck. Like, now I'm back at Auto Salon. Yeah. You remember like people just staring you down?
Yeah.
People sitting next to their cars, and like you'd walk past and they'd just be like looking at
least approachable car owners on earth. Now you go to a show and people are standing near their car and they're looking at you like, ask me what the wheels are. Like, they want to talk about it. They want to relate. Back then it was like, what are you fucking looking at?
Yeah. Right. It was scary, man. And you know, do you remember how many DJs there were?
Too many.
How loud those shows? It was like you could hear 2 or 3 songs playing at the same time.
Yeah, it sucked. At least when you go to the casino, all the poker machines are in the key of C, so it's not too offensive, right? You go to Auto Salon, and it's in the key of get me the fuck out of here. I'm sick of listening. I've got that many Wild Nights CDs somewhere, probably up there somewhere, and I love them, but one at a time. One at a time, man. One at a time. Auto Rush was a good show because it showed how many cars were still that still existed.
Yeah. And it was clean. It was a clean show. I like it when cars have a lot of space apart. You know, like
totally.
To me, a car show is not about how many cars are there. It's just like if it's all presented well. You got nice fucking polished concrete floors and shit. But you know, but then again, like the couple of times that I went to Motorex, man, like I know guys from the JDM car scene or whatever would never go because it's not their thing. But I'm like, it's like you're saying, like you're not a car enthusiast. You're not like, what car do you drive? And I got to meet so many cool people, man. I got to talk to people who had these builds that were so next level to anything that I would ever do.
Yeah.
And they were so happy to have conversations. And
Motorex is funny now, man. Like disclosure, that's part of the family, right? Like we run Motorex.
Yeah.
And it's so different to 20 years ago. It used to be, okay, that's where they park all of the hot rods.
Yep.
And then there's some customs and some really elite show cars like the Summernats Unveiley type cars.
Yep.
And there's some traders and a hot dog stand, and that's it. Now you go to Motorex, and okay, there's far fewer of the more standard, traditionally original type hot rods. There's a heap of the show cars, but the real street cars, so the cars that come and go each day, that sort of changing, evolving show over the weekend, man, 60% JDM. There would have been 40 GDRs at MotorX last year.
Well, we started that, so that's crazy. The thing. So yeah, I mean, they approached when I had Zen Garage. They came in, the Churchill brothers, and Andy came in and said, first, Andy came along to one of my end of month meets, and his jaw was dropped. He was like, he had no fucking idea
where did these cars come from?
Yeah, he had no idea. He said, what the fuck is going on here? And then Andy sent the Churchill brothers over to Zen Garage, and they were all dressed up in like business wear. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, we're wearing hoodies and shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have a proposition for you guys. We're gonna, we need. They were honest. They said MotorX could probably do with branching out and have a bigger audience, sell more tickets. And they said, what if we gave you guys the whole outside?
Yeah.
Do what you want with it. And I just brought all the JDM guys, man. Yeah. So we started that.
Yeah.
That was fucking great.
It's still going. And
yeah, nice. Well, it opens up the JDM guys to...
But it's forced those groups to mix. So now you've got HK Monaro, S15, RX7, Evo 5.
Dude, I had my GTR in MotorX, bro. For me, crazy. It was like...
Yeah, you know, show car guy.
Dude, I'd go all the way down the fucking hall and back. There was nothing like as fucked up as my car, you know? Everything was like mint.
You're allowed to have a car like that at a show like that if all the bits that are on it are there for a reason.
Yeah. No, but that was the beginning, I think. And, you know, I get it. Like, I get that the purists would be upset and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm a shit stirrer, right? Like, every time there's an opportunity like that, I'm going to be the guy who says sort of like, why not have both kind of thing? You know?
Yeah, the controversy, if you got the same shit to talk about, doesn't matter whether it's talking about cars or talking about bikes or talking about fishing or talking about playing guitar or whatever, if you got this everyone playing the same style of music forever, even if that's your favorite thing in the world, you're going to get jack of it. So
it's circle jerking. It's circle jerking, right? It gets to a point where if you block yourself from outside influence, then
it's an echo chamber. You want to be surrounded by people going, that is good. Yes, that is good. I like that a lot. Yes, I like that a lot too. Fuck off. Tell me you hate it. Let's have a fight. You know, I drove that 180SX that you saw the video of on Wednesday night. I drove that at Sydney Dragway, a stanced 180SX with mismatched wheels front to back.
Love it.
You've known me for a long time. It's not my thing, right?
It's not your thing.
And part of the appeal was that it's not my thing and that we got to give each other shit. I was ragging on my buddy who owns the car and he was ragging on me for being a sellout and driving an SR stanced 180. It's perfect. I'd rather have that conversation than sit with 30 other Skyline owners talking about our GDSTs. Fuck off.
Yeah, but at the same time, you guys, like, there's a sense of humor from the very first seconds of the video. And you guys cater well. I thought you looked really comfortable, by the way, in front of the camera. I fucking hate being in front of the camera. So I thought, kudos to you. You looked comfortable.
Thanks, man.
And
I've had to do it a lot. I've had to do it a lot.
But that's good, right? You got to own it, right? If you're going to do it. And then, like, towards the end of it, you're sitting there in your seat with this huge smile on your face.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And it's real. And you're wearing, like, a very grown-up jumper. And I'm just like, that's kind of what I like about you is, like, ever since I've met you, it's almost like you remind me of someone in high school. Like, you still have the cheeky kind of high school kid. Like, that's the way I've always looked at you. You've got this energy. You've got a cheekiness about you. And it's just so good to see that video this morning because I've not fucking heard from you for a long time.
Well, that's what I've enjoyed about, you know, when we started in the magazine stuff at Express in the Silverwater days. And
that's how I met you, right? I think.
Totally, yeah. And having to have staff and only having a budget to really hire fresh guys, right? Like you back then, it's like, okay, I've got 40 grand to hire a rider, and that's, you know, it's they think it's awesome because they drive a shitbox car and they love cars and they can write in whole sentences and they think it's a dream job, and to a certain extent it is for a time. And I just challenge them at every opportunity. I'm like, well, what are you into? Well, tell me why that's not shit.
Yeah.
That's garbage. Yeah. Why are you into Hondas? Why? Is it a turbo Honda? No.
Would you call that like a tough love? You had tough love, like you were giving them tough love.
I think so. It's perspective. You know, there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. But my best guys that I ever had in terms of hiring writers, the best guys that ever worked for me as writers or contributors or whatever, were the ones that threw it straight back at me and went, well, here's why.
Yeah.
Like, okay, tell me why it is.
Yeah.
You know, you get a JDM guy, Alan. You get a guy like Alan and go, who on the phone sounds more Australian than I do. And you go, hey, Alan, you're a Honda guy, you're a turbo guy. You're writing this HQ Monaro story because I don't want to hear another story from a V8 guy about this car.
Yeah,
you know, get the V8 guy to write about the airbrush WRX on 20 inch.
Oh, dude, I'm sure he respects the balls off. Like, I'm just sure that he, you know, he's a respectful guy. So I'm sure that tough love. Like, honestly, like if you think about it these days, I don't think, because I'm the same as you. Like, I've always, if I had, like when I was lecturing graphic design, I would just give tough love because that's just the way it was. If you're going to really inspire someone, sort of.
And I've got some really good relationships with people that worked for me, with me, as contributors, as staff, whatever. Now that are really close mates.
Yeah, like they can see what your intentions were, right?
Well, totally, yeah, and it's never so harsh as to, you know, tell someone they were a fucking idiot for holding a position.
No, but you weren't
be able to argue your way out of a paper bag, right? Like, tell me why you think that's a thing. Like, convince me, even though we won't agree necessarily. Convince me why, because convince me. It's what's the movie? Sell me this pencil. It's show me that you're not an idiot. That's what
you need.
one.
That's what you need to be a good writer and write compelling stories to a point where you're planting a seed in the reader's mind, right? If the reader's reading an article and they're sitting there going, "Fuck," they've walked away from it, and they even like go out there and quote what you've said in the magazine to their best friends. You've said something.
Yeah. One of the guys I work with, Sam Hollier, he's a news.
I remember his name.
Journalist now. He's a Ford guy, and he's a really, really good guy, fundamentally decent human being. He wrote a story about a Ford once that I published in one of my magazines, and I think it ran in one of the Ford mags first, where he included a dozen regurgitator song titles in the story.
Just snuck them in there.
Just as a, I don't know if he was bored or if he wanted to. It was a challenge, right? He was playing, and I'm reading it going, this story flows perfectly. I'm just sub-editing it or reading it, proofing it before it goes to print. I'm like, there's something about this story. I don't know what it is. I like it. And then asked him and he told me and I went, okay, first of all, that's awesome. Yeah. I totally get it. And maybe 0.1% of the audience will go, okay, I know what's going on here. But it was just mixing it up. Like, just do something different.
Well, it's an art form, man. And I think you only get into it properly if you're not just trying to please you. You know, like I think a lot of juniors do that, right? They're just like, they don't mean to have a that'll do attitude, but fuck, if that'll do, I'll fucking take it. Yeah. And that's what's sad about it. And what I find really sad about now is that the tough love doesn't work anymore. If we're talking about current juniors, like current 20-year-olds, tough love doesn't work because it's like, it's patronizing. It's offensive. So then it's almost like they curl back even harder. And now it's almost like you have to be sort of super soft and sympathetic and like ease someone into it. And like, you know, but it's like, man, the tough love is what I was brought up on. So
it's difficult, man. It's editorially spanking your kids and thinking that that's going to do a better job. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. You're right. It's different now.
It's different.
But I'm different now too, so I've probably got more strategies to get more out of people.
If this doesn't work, you're going to
throwing it in their face and going, "Well, that's bullshit."
Do you have juniors at Summernats?
Totally, yeah. So Jack, who was in the video, who actually owned the 180SX, or owns it, he's been with us for a few years now. He's a champion. He's a JDM supercar enthusiast, loves Formula One. loves content production, loves video editing, all of that kind of stuff. And he's just, he looks after a lot of the social media and that kind of stuff. He's really switched on with that. We've got a marketing assistant that helps effectively babysit me and other staff to keep us on track with focus. So, okay, no, this needs attention now. You need to look at this now.
Yep.
And she's a gem, but
she's
it's
good with the calendar.
Awesome with the calendar to the point that it gets up my nose really hard, but that's her job, right? And it's good having juniors, but it's a different work environment too. Like there's nothing as freeing, and I never had this at the magazines ever. There's nothing as freeing as going to your boss with an idea that you've got that you know is a good idea, or it's probably a good idea, and saying, hey, I've got an idea. It'll probably cost this much. This is how long it'll take, and I think it'll have this effect. And have that person go, do it, and resource you appropriately, and go, okay, fine. We believe in you in the position that we've hired you for by this much, and we'll resource you appropriately. And if it doesn't work, it was our decision to do that. No problem. We'll work through it together.
That's how you're going to keep someone on. Like, that's a long plan goal, though. That means your boss obviously isn't thinking about like this year is this year, next year. It's like kind of like if you're going to run a business for a long time and for it, you know, you're going to succeed more some years than others, but who knows, the sky's the limit kind of thing, right? So if you're thinking that big, then there's no fucking way that you can say no to your staff and try to stay in a lane or whatever. Like that's the kind of thinking where people, I think it's like how a lot of modern companies run, like Google and Microsoft. That's how they run. They run because they're like, we're going to pluck you out of whatever world that you were in before. And now you're in our world. Yeah. And we are going to give you all this freedom and stuff to do something that makes you fit in properly. Not like, you know how like when I was running ZEN, I was like, I wished everyone that worked for me or worked with me would treat it as much as I treated it. And it's fucking impossible, man. Sometimes it's so hard to figure that shit out. When I was running a design company, it was the same shit. Like, I want you guys to live and breathe this as much as I do. Get into it. And it's like, it's a big ask sometimes, you know? It's like, it's hard to figure out how you're going to get someone as excited as you are about your company.
It's freeing, and at the same time, until you get used to having that conversation and having, luckily, some ideas come off, and you know, been lucky in that sense. It's scary as well, because if they say no, you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah,
when they say yes, oh shit, I've got to do it now. Like friend of a friend, like the car scene. You know, there's thousands of people I don't know in the car scene, but degrees.
There's probably more people you do know, though.
Maybe, but the degrees of separation between people, like the first big idea I took to my boss, I was fresh in the Summernats business and in the event space. After I'd been going for 20 years as a spectator and media and whatever.
Yeah, and so you know the event well, and you know.
I know it really well. And here's the thing: owners of the event, not car guys. Not at the time. They're very much car guys now, but not car guys. So they're like, okay, well, we've got the comms/marketing guy in who is a car guy. So if he says car stuff to us, well, who are we to argue with him? So the first big idea was, hey, there's this TV show called Street Outlaws, and my buddy Dale knows a couple of the cast, and I think Summernats attendees would get a massive kick out of it if we could get them. They would. Here.
Yeah, because we had that on Netflix, right? I think
totally.
It was Netflix. I mean,
Discovery, And it's on Netflix and Channel 9 and stuff now. And they went, okay, is that good? And didn't say, no, we have the ideas here, mate. We have the ideas, you just talk about them. They went, is that good? We don't know. And called the other car guy who was the GM at the time and said, hey, new boy says that he can get something called a Street Outlaw to Australia. And the GM went, really?
Yeah, cool.
And they hung up on the GM and said, all right, we'll go work out how much it'll cost. And those boys and the 1320 guys and Cletus and all those guys, they're coming to Australia every year now, and it's part of their schedule, and they get to skip out on winter a little bit. And Summernats 30, where they all turned up, we had 120,000 people there over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it was a huge success, and everybody loved seeing them. And it was like, okay, cool. What's your next idea?
Yeah. Like, well, no, sometimes you got to chill the fuck out, right? Like, honestly, like, it's not easy to outdo yourself. Like, I think when you create something that has legs to a point where it's not just a one-off, all of a sudden you can build upon it. So, I don't know. Like, I think sometimes people are almost too quick to try to. It's almost like your story about the second year of racing. You fucking do that to yourself.
So the good thing is that one of the guys I work for has more ideas per day than anyone I've ever met, and half of them are great, and you can do about a tenth of them feasibly. And it's just like, oh shit, we've got to do that. How do we fit that in? We've got to do that. It's a brilliant idea. And he's like, I don't know. Let's have a conversation. That's why 2021, we've got 8 or 9 or 10 events that we're doing. When I started, we were Summernats and Red Summernats in Alice Springs, you know, that we run for NT government. It's a tourism exercise. You know, that's the NT government saying, hey, we want, we're talking about cyclotourism. We want petrolhead tourism in the Northern Territory. And they came to Summernats and said, will you run this in Alice Springs for us? And we've just finished our 6th event there. We're getting ready for the 7th one in September. And but now we're doing that in Rockhampton in April. We're doing events at Sydney Dragway, multiple events. And we're running MotorX in Melbourne. It's like every time there's a new idea and a new conversation, and it's great. The business is growing and you know, we're running events and we're running them safely now, which is another challenge, but man, it's hard. There's so many good ideas, and
well, when it comes to events, not enough people within the company, but enough people out there willing to go. Like, see, that's the thing. Like, Sydney has almost 2 scenes, right? Like, one which is like, it's really fucking hard to get the enthusiasts to go, but then there's the other mob which will go if you invest correctly in advertising. And you know, like, our perfect example is like the night noodle markets in Sydney. It's like, fuck, if you want to eat dumplings from that shop, just go to the shop.
Go to the shop.
Because that's you're sitting there in fucking Hyde Park. You're sitting on wet grass. You don't know what the fuck's been shitting on that grass. You don't know what you're sitting in because there's no lights, and you're queuing up for like half an hour for some dumplings, and then as soon as you want to eat something else, you got to queue up for half an hour again for it. And it's just all restaurants. Well, yeah. So there you go. And it's like, man, the true foodies aren't going there, but it's the foodies who are running Instagram accounts and like,
that's probably true.
And this is the thing about Sydney, right? Because it's like, so you only run it once a year. Of course it's going to fucking pack out. But there's like so many fucking days in a year. It's like, we're starving for events, this country. That's my opinion, anyway.
Well, Matt, like, look at the response to the end of month meet stuff. Look at that.
Running end of month. How many years? I mean, started that in 2005. It's not dying anytime soon. You go to Japan, you go to Tatsumi or Daikoku Fudo, it'll be packed every weekend because the scene is alive, man. Like, you know, you don't need to make it so that you have to call all your mates and like, guys, I'll see you there. You know,
no, it's self-sustaining.
It's just like, fuck, you go and then you run into someone. That's the way it should be, man. Like,
that's how it used to be in Wollongong. Everyone would go to South Beach, or everyone would go to the lighthouse.
Go to skate park. I was the same as a kid. I'd go to Centennial Park. I'd sit down on a log for like, it only takes 4 minutes to do a lap, right? So sit there for 10 minutes and there's a mate. Off we go.
Off you go.
Like, it's kind of how we did it, you know, before mobile phones. You and I would know, right? Before mobile phones, you kind of said you'd be somewhere, you met someone, and it's just easier. It's like there was a hangout after school, and you know, you go. And it
had to be the same place because it was too hard to organize anywhere else.
Right. You skate down the road, you see somebody else in the distance on a BMX or skateboard. You know, you knew them. Yeah, that's it. This is the guy that I'm going to hang out with this afternoon. So, I just think there's so much space for events, and there's so many people that are willing to go. But it's like you said, like, yeah, you run out of manpower pretty quickly if you have to add in all of that. Oh, fuck, now I need a brand for this and I need to promote it. But when you have someone in-house, it's fucking free, man. I've always said that. As a graphic designer myself, I'm going to start a cycling forum. I'm going to start JDM Start Shooting Forum. This all came after my design forum. And it's like, I've got the fucking tools. All I need is a domain name, the name, a logo, a V bulletin, and then boom, chuck it out there and see what happens. And it's like, if I had to pay a designer, I had to pay.
Too hard. That's how Skylines Australia was born. That was Skylines Down Under, which was a Kiwi forum for Skylines, because back in the day they had far more of them than we did in Australia, because they didn't have tariffs on them for car imports, especially out of Japan. And Skylines Down Under wouldn't give the Aussie guys their own section of the forum.
Yeah, right.
Just wouldn't do it. They're like, nah, you just use the regular forum like everyone else. And they probably have a slightly different version of the story. And then a guy called Christian went, well, I know how to make a website. I can download a hacked license of V Bulletin or whatever he did at the time. I remember
Christian. Yeah,
Christian Biggins, beautiful guy.
Biggins. Oh my god, I remember his name.
Prank.
Yeah,
Prank, and he kicked off Skylines Australia. And what happened to Skylines Down Under? Gone.
That's the way. If you don't, I mean, I remember at some point after running, because I probably spent way more hours in V Bulletin's backend than any other forum owner on the planet. I swear, I hacked the fuck out of that to make JDMST look, because I'm a designer and I had to have something look sexy. So I spent like thousands of hours hacking the fuck out of that.
It was the only one that actually looked different to a V Bulletin template for the longest time.
That's what I'm saying, right? So all the typography, everything was just fucking tight. And then me being the shit stirrer that I am, I approached every forum and said, your forum's ugly. It's disgusting.
It needs a birthday.
Can I at least do your banner?
Yeah.
So I did the Oz Honda banner.
Yeah.
I did the Skylines Australia banner. And I started.
So you did the one with the tail lights and the harbour? Yeah, wow.
Yep. That was me. So awesome. Like I systematically went around and like, if I'm going to hang on these forums, I'd like them to look better just for my sake, you know?
That's awesome.
So I'm that guy, man. So I remember like just for me personally, just logging into SAU every day and seeing that was my banner. I took it a step further. So at some point I approached all the guys like Christian and everyone, right? Win from Oz Honda, everyone, all the different forums, like the Lowdown, fucking all those new startup kind of fucking came from nowhere kind of dudes. And I gave them a deal on Facebook because Facebook was going off at the time. So I said, everyone, I'm going to give you admin to the ZEN Garage Facebook page, but you're only allowed to post, and JDMST as well, Facebook page, but you're only allowed to post one thing a week. Right, only one thing. And if it's on JDMST, you got to make it JDM related. You can't post a European car there. It's got to be like a European car with JDM wheels or something. So I did that with everybody. And Adrian, everyone gave me that one post a week on there.
Beautiful.
And I was just reaching over a million people
awesome.
a week.
That's crazy.
I created that. And then fucking Ogilvy, design agency from hell, invited me over there to teach them how to do social media.
Outrageous.
And I showed them how I did it, and they were like, fuck. So it's all about keeping your enemies close. I've heard that saying my whole life. I'm like, what does it fucking mean? What does it fucking mean? And I finally figured it out. I'm like, I'll give you guys access.
I'll give you the privilege to post your stuff here. I'll give you the privilege of posting here.
They could only post on my 1 or 2 pages, but I could post on all of their pages. So
that's awesome.
I don't know, man. I've always had a little bit of a shit stirrer in me. I've always figured shit out, and
it's hustling. It is. And I like that word. That's a term of endearment. Yeah. If you've like the more an American meaning, if you're a hustler, if you've got good hustle, that's something to be respected. That's awesome.
Dude, my dad was a hustler. Hey, he was a pool player that played for money.
No shit.
Yeah, and he used to go down to Mid-City Center. He said all the gangsters used to hang out there. mid-city center in the city. Apparently, there's a pool hall downstairs. And he ended up getting so good and saving up so much money that he bought the pool hall in the MLC center in the CBD, right, on George Street.
Yeah.
And then when he bought the pool hall, not even 1 year into running it, he got hustled out of the business by gangsters. Wow. They just said, yeah, what the fuck are you running this? No, take this money and take it or leave it. And he got hustled out of it. So he never played pool ever again, really,
it's pretty romantic, the idea that you can build a life and an empire with a stick.
Oh, dude, I still have his pool cue. Like, he passed away when I was really young, but I had it. And dude, like, I remember one night I was so fucking wasted. I went entered a pool comp in Glebe, and I almost won, man. I'm like that competitive fucker like you too.
Yeah.
I got into the finals, and the last guy, I just put so much pressure on myself. And I'm like, we can't lose, Dad. This is your pool cue. Like, he had the two-piece
and you shit
cue.
the bed.
And I just fucking I missed everything, man. I missed everything. Like, I won a ticket for a few free drinks, and that was it. But I was like, oh fuck, we're so close.
You cry into your free beer.
But dude, I do have a little list here of some hilarious things that you wrote in your last post to me last week. You said,
go.
You're into fishing. I love fishing, by the way. Golf. Gardening, that I had to talk about. Gardening.
Dude.
So let's start with fishing.
I don't know what I've become. Hey, fishing's easy.
No.
Fishing's easy.
Let's start with fishing, because there's a bit of a gear element to it, right? Carbon fiber rods and all that shit. There's a bit of a. So let's talk about fishing, because I love it. Like, where do you fish, and how often?
I don't fish nearly as often as I'd like to. But
me too.
I caught my first fish at a place down in the Snowy called Adamindaby when I was about 2.
Wow, okay, long time ago.
Yeah, and it was Dad, my rod's moving. Oh, okay, whatever, son. And then brought that first fish. It was like that second pass at the drags. It was awesome.
Yeah,
and I've just loved it. My grandparents had a caravan, like an on-site caravan down the south coast of New South Wales, and we'd go there every school holidays. And we had the beach on one side and the lake on the other. Walking distance to both. And Grandma and Granddad always had a boat, and we're on a different site now at that same van park, but my parents now own a van, a big setup down there. And Dad has a nice boat, and I got given a fishing rod by my grandparents, who used to take me fishing all the time when I was about, I want to say 5 or 6, maybe 5 years old. And my daughter caught her first fish on that rod in her granddad's boat in the same lake.
That is sick.
Dude, it's generations of fishing of all types, and I can sit in a boat for 12 hours and not get a single bite and still have the same bait on the end of the hook and have had the best day.
Yeah, I'm not so good on boats. I think little dinghy on the lake, absolutely. But most of my experience that I really enjoy is being on the jetty. You know, that typical, you're on the jetty, the sun's going down, you got beers and good company.
Yep.
But
most of what I've done is on a boat on a lake, just bobbing around, or fishing from the bank, and just same sort of deal. It was a can of Coke and a bag of lollies when I was a kid, and it's a packet of chips and a 6-pack as an adult, and it's cathartic. I can just sit there all day, man. And it's heritage. Like when you've grown up and your earliest memories of fishing are I remember I was 5 the day I was given the rod, where I was standing, the color of it, the writing, everything about that day.
Yeah.
And me as a 35-year-old with my daughter on my dad's boat on the same lake, giving her the same rod and her out fishing us that day, man.
That's trippy. And it is about that, isn't it? Like the JDM Yard guys had organized a fishing trip at the Hawkesbury every year. So I was privy to such amazing holiday trips with those guys. Then they all started having children, and I'm that single guy. Like every year I'm the single dude. And I was just so happy that they invited me again and again cool every time, you know. And these guys, like, they're all master chefs, man. They are all master chefs. They'd be fighting at the bit to see who's cooking the fish tonight.
Oh man, I need to hang out with those guys. That's awesome. I like eating as much as they like cooking.
Dude, they'll bring smokers out there and smoke meat, make pastrami.
Yeah, wow.
Your breakfast, lunch, and dinner would be restaurant quality.
Wow.
Crazy shit. And we don't fish every single year. We would fish with chicken. You wouldn't use prawns. You wouldn't use shrimp. I don't know how they fucking figured it out, but cheesy chicken. Cheese. Like they had it's disgusting because after 3 or 4 days you spent there, that chicken's going off. So do not touch your mouth.
Yeah.
After you've been
fishing with salmonella. Great.
Exactly. But Parmesan cheese and fucking raw chicken.
Really?
And we would reel that fucking crap in, man. Like we would reel. And they've got hearts too. Like Z caught a flathead. I'll have to send you a photo another time. Z had a flathead as long as his fucking leg and was pregnant. So photo op, let it go.
Back in,
legends. Like it's just, man, it was so good. Like I'm the type of guy that's I've got my speakers, I've got my fucking music on there. Like they never think of that. Like they're just nice people.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
You know, I'm sitting there, I've got the weed and I'm you know, I'm just trying to get stoned and fish all day, but these guys there, maybe drink. They'll drink.
Yeah. I love a beer and a fish. Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, man, just the way these guys were like cooking this shit, you know, even squid, and we'd have like those Japanese fucking octopus balls. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Just next level, but food that you caught on that day, you know. So
yeah, that's cool.
So I'm with you, and not so much as hardcore as your family history, but my dad was crazy into fishing. And he was the first guy in Sydney to sell a saltwater fish in his aquarium. So he was the first, so he was the first guy to sell clownfish, lionfish. Before that, it was just all tropical, like goldfish and ordinary fish, you know. So I've got a newspaper clipping of him. He had a shop in Bondi Beach, the first aquarium to sell lionfish and stuff.
Yeah, wow.
But he was really into that. So I didn't have the same experience as you where your dad or granddad gave you a rod. For me, it was like, he got me a rod and he would tell my mum that he's going to go and take me out fishing all day. But what he would do is put the fucking spikes on, go out onto out at La Perouse there on an island that would just get high tide would come and he'd be stuck on that island and I'm stuck on the other side just rock pooling, catching fish for the fish tank. Anyone could have stolen me. It's not like he would be able to come back and save me because it would be
important business to attend to. If he dies, he dies.
It was just those times, man. I think it was safer times back then.
Yeah, totally.
You know, you didn't think about it.
Well, they thought it was. I don't know if it was actually safer, but it felt safer.
It just felt safer. But same sort of similar first story to you. Like the first time I caught a fish on that, and I do remember the rod just like you do, man. It was like a black rod with fluorescent green stripes on it. And I threw it in there and it just got stuck. You know, I was like, "Oh, Dad, it's stuck. It's stuck on a rock or something."
Yeah.
And he grabs it. And he goes, "Oh fuck!" And it was a huge fish. So it was
shit.
So that was my first experience. But like you, man, I feel like fishing should be at least a once a year thing. Like it really, really should, because it just feels so good to connect, and you know, it's almost like meditation, right? It's like you.
It is. Where we go down the coast, the worst thing that ever happened was they put cell phone towers in because I never used to have phone reception there, and it was bliss. You know, whoever I worked for at the time, or whatever girlfriend I had, or whatever it was, you go, "I'm really sorry, but there's no reception." And then I went down there and I'm waiting for the phone reception to go, and I'm like, "Wow, I've still got full service. This sucks."
Yeah, it does, because like it would mean that like when you do take people that aren't super into fishing, and they don't have phones, they'll get into fishing.
It's a problem.
They'll get into it.
It's a problem if they don't. It's a problem if they can't get into it. Yeah. But that's all right. That's why there's always beer.
Yeah, true. And like a lot of people don't like fish either, man. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I keep meeting people that don't like fish.
Dude, my dad doesn't like eating fish.
But
he's probably fishing as we talk right now.
So he's into it for the.
And he has the best boat, and he has it set up just not the biggest, just set up exactly how he wants it, how he likes it. Like he's in his mid-60s now, so a big boat is a problem. But he's just got his little 5-meter lake boat, and it's set up exactly as and he would rather be on that fishing than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, and see, that's what I, if I do want to get old, I would have that to look forward to. That'd be pretty
totally.
Be pretty sick. Have you gone big game fishing?
Yeah, once we went down to, where did we go? Bermagui, way down the south coast, way down.
What were you looking for?
Marlin.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I went up north, but
we got.
How'd you go?
We got one up to the surface.
Yeah.
And it was
we only got one.
Stupidest fish you've ever seen. Like the bait's there, and he's got to come this way to get it, and he's just jumped that way and fucked off, and we never saw him again. But we'd had 10 hours on the boat to that point, drinking beers and hanging out with my dad and two of my mates, and just had a couple of my mates, my two mates that were on the trip sort of didn't really have the sea legs that they should have, and they felt pretty crook for some of it.
It's pretty rough out there, man.
Yeah, and Dad and I were just drinking beer and talking shit the whole time. It was terrific.
Dude, same thing. I was on the ocean for 4 or 5 nights, not on land at all, on a bigger boat.
Yeah,
that had a little fishing boat out at the back of it.
Yeah,
proper marlin fishing boat with the one seat in the center.
Yeah, awesome.
And I never got any marlin, but the guy who organized the trip, he ended up getting one. So it was good that the guy that organized it, that paid for us to go.
It's pretty crazy when you see a boat as big as a marlin boat and it's got one seat in it, and it's like that one chair. I'm sure it's got a name. That's the whole reason that boat exists. And they get pretty big, and there's one seat in it.
Yeah, and all the staff are there for you to have your one catch. Like they do all the hard work, man. Like every time we get bored a little bit, because like it took 4 nights like to find one fucking marlin.
Yeah.
But it's like they're there to service you too. So they can tell like, okay, if we're not gonna find any, they go looking for like that swirl in the water. There's a shit ton of little fish going round and round. Yeah. And they're like, well, that's because there's a huge fucking predator under there, and that's why they're on the surface.
Well, they had a deckhand there that was catching the bait. You know, they send the Paternoster rig down, and when it stops, there's a whole bunch of fish on it. And because we were out there for hours, I'm like, can I help? And they're like, no, it's under control. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No, I want to help.
Please, I want to. Even if I'm catching, bait fish, please, just let me do something. Please, I need that. It was cool. We had a great day.
They were like on the side. I always noticed because, like, you get chummy with them as you go along, right?
Yeah.
So I was getting chummy with them. I'm like, what are you doing there? Like, they were on the side, like, catch some bonito or whatever, and they're just like off the deck of the boat. They'd have these fucking hardcore sushi knives. Shoop, 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 and next thing you know, it's a perfect fillet.
Yep.
Put it in plastic, scribble their name on it, chuck it in the freezer.
Crazy, hey?
And like at the end, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna sell all that shit. Like any opportunity they can make that little bit more money during their trip,
it's hard graft, man. Like if you go, we just went out for the day, and from the moment we set out, they're working. Like it's a hard gig.
They only drop their guards on the last night. That's how professional they are.
Yeah, wow.
They're like completely mute butlers for 3 nights, and on the 4th night, shark stories come out.
Yeah, nice.
Drinking beers. They're like talking about hammerheads and showing off their bites and shit.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. No, that's me. I think I'd rather if I had to choose between never fishing again or never driving a fast car again, I'd be fishing.
That's fucking that's a juicy one.
I'm gonna
have
fishing.
To use that in the clickbaity title.
Yeah. Push the fast car into the ocean and go fishing.
Holy shit, that's a tough one. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I was about to admit something. I don't know if I want to. Well, I'll kind of think like if I had a family, like I know you have a family, but I don't. But if I had a family and it got to a point where we were struggling financially and I had to sell the GTR, fucking oath, I would sell the GTR. Like 100%. I've always said that. So
And just quietly, the prices that GTRs are selling for at the moment, you wouldn't be in trouble financially for very long.
It's not too bad, yeah. Last time I checked, it was 20 grand, so 20.
And if you could buy GTRs of any variety for 20 grand at the moment, you would sell everything else you owned to buy as many of them as you possibly could. Yeah.
Yeah, good shit. I've heard. So they're probably about 100 now.
Yeah,
80.
Now that America can have GTRs. All of the R34 GTR price records are being broken every month, like $400,000 for a 34 V-spec.
See, I knew I should have bought one of those. Like I was always gunning.
I should have bought one, but it was 40 grand, and I couldn't afford it.
Same for me. It was about
40 grand.
They started at 80 when I was first looking on car sales, and then down to 60. You're right. At 40, I was like, I should have pounced on one, man.
Yeah.
Should have pounced on one. I've always loved that car.
Because if a great one is 400, a shit box is 150.
Such a cool car. I really love the 35s too, man. Like I don't know, a lot of people don't like them, but
I like them. I don't love them.
Yeah. After I drove one,
I can't get passionate about it. They're an appliance. No. They're a really, really fast car that anyone can buy.
You hit the nail on the head. I actually want one as a daily driver, and I would never wash it. Like I would just, it's a grocery getter. It is my A to B car. You know, that's what I want one for. Like you're right. I wouldn't put money into it.
And it's a better car than every other GTR before it in every conceivable metric. It's just, it's a better car.
It actually feels
don't
like
care.
One.
And
that's yeah, me neither. But I got to drive one in anger on the Great Ocean Road, and honestly, I drive cars in anger if they're easier to drive than my GTR because I'm not scared of it. But this car felt like my car, but better in every way.
Yep.
Better in the braking, better in the handling.
I might feel the need to own one more, but I had that experience ruined because I drove it the same day as I drove a bunch of other sort of supercars or, you know, fancier European cars in the one day.
Yeah, same. That's what I did.
And it was we did a Sony action cam launch or something in Sydney.
You don't like those Lamborghinis and shit, though. They're shit, man.
I don't like the Lamborghinis, but as soon as I got out of the R35 GTR, I jumped in a V10 R8, an Audi R8.
Okay.
And it was just a better car. It was just a better car. And it didn't sound like a vacuum cleaner, which was good. And it didn't wallow around as much. Like the 35 feels heavy.
I drove a modified one, so it's a bit unfair.
Yeah, it's probably is. Yeah,
I had semis on it too, so.
But driving a standard 35, it'll go around any racetrack, better, faster, easier,
like an Evo,
any previous version.
Yeah.
Now,
but R8 sounds like a scalpel. It's sharp, you know. It's
just a better car, and to drive at 40 kilometers an hour, it was twice the car of the Ferrari and the Lambo and all the other bullshit.
I fucking hated the Lambos, man.
Yeah, I like looking at them. They're again back to what I said at the start. I'm glad they exist.
Yeah.
I'm glad they exist.
It had that hesitation, you know, like if you just floored the accelerator, it would just sit there for a split second and just sort of go, "Oh, you want to go fast now?" And give it. I had the framed picture on my bedroom wall as a kid of the red
Countach with
naked
the out of focus city skyline in the background.
I had the naked girl
up on the hill. Yeah, no, I didn't have that.
My dad was naughty. My dad put that up on my wall so that he could come into my room and check it out.
Mad. I feel worse for never having met your dad. He sounds like a complete lad.
Yeah, he changed his car every year. He was just addicted.
Yeah,
like every year he'd have to have a different car.
Because the pool hall mob knew what he drove. They were after him.
You know, a part of the thing is like when dad was around, I fucking hated everything because he was a strict guy, right? So whatever he was into, I fucking hated. But when he passed away over the years, I've gotten into cars, into pool,
Yeah,
into
wow.
aquariums. I've got an aquarium. All
into
the shit
naked girls.
Well, fuck, exactly right. So whatever he was into, I am now into, and it's really weird. Like he used to drive so fucking hard that, like, as a kid, I'd just bring a blank notepad with me and a ballpoint pen. I'd shut my eyes. I'd put the fucking pen in the middle of the pad, and by the end of the trip, I'd have an artwork because the corners were so hard that the pen was going off the page and shit.
Justin's analog G-meter.
Yeah. But he was just a crazy driver, and so, like, I remember when roundabouts were first put in Sydney, people would think he was going to go straight because of the speed he was entering into the roundabout. But he'd have his blinker on, and guys would like come out, and he'd just go, no, I'm turning right, and he'd just like fucking cane it. So
racetrack.
He was always that kind of guy, man, and
that's cool as shit.
He's had some cars that were like, he had some weird Honda Coupe that apparently there's one for sale in New Zealand at the moment for about 30K. I really want it, but I've never seen one in my life. He had a BMW 2002.
Yeah, wow.
He had cool cars. He had a Datto 200 SX, 200.
SS, SX.
200 something.
Yeah, 200B maybe.
200B. It was a 200B.
Yeah.
It was a 200B. It was a 200B. It was like white 200B with the the Datto. It was Datto stripes. The red and blue stripes. He had some cool cars. So part of my thing when I was like running JDMST, I was buying all the fucking initial D cars. I'm like, man, I really should be buying the cars that Dad had.
Yeah, true. I remember.
Way cooler.
One of the earliest cars I remember. Not the earliest, but one of the earliest cars I remember, our family car was a Nissan Bluebird, like the square 80s.
The square one, yeah. I think my dad had one of those too.
And it was the LX. It was the baller version. I don't know if it had cloth trim or something. It was brown. LHE 215 was the number plate, and I just thought it was the family sedan. It wasn't a Falcon, it wasn't a Falcon. It wasn't a Commodore. It wasn't a Kingsway. It was weird. It was a Nissan, and it was a 2-liter 4-cylinder or something. And I remember Dad having a conversation. This will blow your fucking mind like it blows mine. I didn't know why there was a combination of letters and numbers that my dad was talking to his mate about. But for whatever reason, and I reckon this would have been 34 years ago, 35 years ago, 34 years ago, my dad said to his buddy, who was also into cars, they make an import version of this engine with a turbo on it. It's called an FJ20. And I have that memory in my head as clear as fucking day. And I'm like, I don't know what any of that means. I'm 8. I don't know what the fuck that means. But if he'd done, imagine if he'd bought and done the FJ20 swap on his Bluebird, what that might have done for my early turbo Nissan brain. Like I got there eventually anyway.
Right,
but I remember that as clear as day. And for years I had no idea why I remembered that. And I'm so glad that I did.
But even to this day, that is sadly the same story. Like I love this country, but we live in a country where we don't get the 2-door R32 Golf. We don't get the DC5 with the better engine and the Brembo brakes.
You get the Type S that the rest of the world gets, right?
It's like Australia. What we have motorsport on the television every fucking weekend. I've had friends come that have come from overseas to live here, and they're like, "Holy shit, Justin! You guys have motorsport on the TV all weekend." I'm like, "Yeah." This is Australia, mate. But at the same time, the guys who are bringing cars in are like, Aussies won't buy that. They don't need that.
Yeah, wow.
What the fuck?
It's crazy. Like but I mean, by the same token, it's what you used to or what you can't have that you want. Because I remember that first year that Farm Truck and Asian came to Summernats. And Asian, he's a super, super switched on guy. You'd love him. He's a really smart guy and a hustler. He is 100% a hustler. And he came over and their eyes were bugging out of their head because there's a whole bunch of cars they don't recognize. And then they're seeing 4-door versions of their 2-door cars. And they're like, holy shit, did you know they made a 4-door this? You know, and shit like that. And they're like, wow, but they want the 4-door.
Yeah, because they want the bigger the car, the better, and kind of weird. Yeah, but
they didn't know it exists. They can't get it. They can't have it
because it's
different. So they want it.
Oh fuck! I just hate that. I'm just like.
But yeah, sedans are dumb. I still want the coupes. But
you know when Mark Scaife did a Monaro up for the motor show, it was an orange one and it had full roll cage. It was done up like a V8 supercar, but it was a 2-door Monaro.
Mm-hmm.
I just jizzed my pants, man. I just went like, oh my God. Like I had never wanted an Aussie car more than that Monaro.
Dude, that car surprised the entire market when they launched it. Because fucking everybody knew that it was coming. Everybody knew that there was a new thing coming. And they didn't know whether it was going to be a new Tirana. They didn't know whether... And they'd dropped some hints and there'd been some leaks and whatever about some aspects of it. And then they pulled the covers off and went, ta-da. And
But you know, like, I was always a Holden fan, right? But I think... I remember going to towards the end of those motor shows there where Ford just started to kick ass, man. I don't know what they did, but it's like their cars came out in these really weird neon colors, like that mustardy yellow, fucking crazy. You know, that really weird, like baby vomit, fucking radioactive
mustard baby vomit.
Right. And you'd look in their engine bays. Oh fuck, there's a turbo. You know, and it's like it was almost like Fast and Furious of the fucking Aussie car scene. And they just took it from Holden from me at that point. Like I was a Holden fan throughout the entire V8 supercars fucking thing. And then I started to see some tough Fords. I'm like,
well, look what the XR6 Turbo's done for the Australian car scene.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's the RB30 VL Turbo.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. They stole it.
Yeah.
They stole it in terms of like trying something new. Smaller turbo.
Yeah.
It's kind
more
of like
efficient.
It's like
that's why there was a Nissan engine. That's why there was a Nissan engine in the Commodore. Simple as that. The black motor couldn't meet emissions that were coming in the next year. They knew they had the V6 coming, the Buick thing.
I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Wait, keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
And they needed a stopgap, and they went, fuck, 6-cylinder something to replace this. RB30 ET.
Yeah.
From Nissan, and they put it in the VL, and then by the time they'd moved on, gone.
Yeah. Dude, I had to ask you.
VN,
So Holden is no more apparently, right? I've been really out of touch with ever since V8 supercars let other makes in.
Yeah.
I stopped watching.
Yeah.
So I was really into the whole Mark Scaife, Russell Ingall era.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Fucking oh my God,
mine too.
That shit. Right. And then soon after that, I was like, what's happening? What's happening to V8 supercars, man? It's fucking up. But I need to ask you what you think about, like, I don't mean to sound old here, but holy fuck, I never thought that Holden and Ford would never be a thing. Like, honestly, I thought I'd be dead before that would happen.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
It's the kind of thing where, like, I'm a Ford guy. The earliest car that I remember our family having was a sky blue XA Falcon 500.
XA, the really boxy, super boxy one.
Sort of. I mean, they're all boxy in that era, but it was
with the taillights that had like stripes, like thick.
Oh, you're thinking XDEF. So the series before that was sort of swoopier, looked more like a Mach 1 Mustang front end sort of thing. And so I growing up, Ford guy, I bleed blue, right? And I honestly thought that Ford in Australia would disappear before Holden.
Why? Because they were less
because because they were bigger. It was the kind of thing. It's like it's such a powerful brand in this country. Why would a company ever let it fail? And just no commercial reality in my brain.
Wait, you thought Ford was going to leave before Holden?
Oh yeah.
But Fords were the first cars in the world, right?
Yeah. Holden was the first Australian mass-produced car.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's the football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars. It's the culture.
You would know better than me. I have no idea. But so from all the V8 supercar races with Holdens and Fords, which mark won more races?
I don't know. I
thought you would.
An educated guess would say Holden has won a lot more.
Really? Okay.
And particularly in the modern era, because there were 2-1 Holden teams compared to Ford teams.
As you say, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
And they're all, and you know, it's a long time since we had proper touring car racing where the cars started as a car and then got race prepped. For the longest time, we've had cars that start as a rack of chrome moly tube in a chassis shop.
It's just the fucking shell then, yeah.
And they're all identical chassis. They are identical. They have to be. And then you're allowed to tune things and change spring rates and whatever. I actually got a little bit more excited about supercars again when the other marques came in, when Mercedes came in, or Mercedes and Nissan and Volvo.
Yeah.
I actually got a kick out of that because they mixed it up a little bit. Like, I'm a Ford guy and I hope the Fords win.
Yeah.
Now there's Nissans here. Hang on a second. What engine's in them? Okay, they're a D-stroked VK56. I'm like, that's cool. So we've got quad cam engines in a pushrod series now, and how are we going to work that out? And it all went to shit. Like, it all disappeared.
Did it? I have no idea. Did it disappear?
Nissan and Mercedes and Volvo, gone. It's holding them.
Oh, they bailed out. Okay, so I didn't even know that. Like, that's the thing. Like, I was just so, man, if it's not going to be a fucking GTR, then it's not Group A, so fuck it. You know, like that's my attitude. Was like, this is really stupid, because that whole joke of like all the taxis you drive are either a Holden or a Ford. Like, as soon as that stopped being the case, they're
all Camrys now. They're all Camrys now. You get in a taxi, it's a Camry.
Dude, when I see a cop car, like today I saw a cop car and it was a fucking Mitsubishi. It doesn't matter how many times I see it, I still believe it should be a Holden or a Ford. Like, as an Aussie, I was born here. I don't like seeing a BMW cop car go past me. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it when I see a Mitsubishi, or even worse, like a Hyundai or some shit.
There's lots of Hyundai cop cars.
I'm like, what the fuck is
Highway patrols now are broadly 5 Series Beamers and V8 Chrysler 300 Cs.
I hate it.
It's weird.
I hate it.
It's weird.
It's not Aussie, man. It is just, this is the kind of shit where I do sound older and I feel older, because it's the kind of stuff that I thought would never change. And then, like, that's when you start sounding old, is when you start complaining about shit that's changing. And it's like, why did it have to change? Like, why? If they didn't open up fucking cop cars to Mitsubishis, maybe that Holden would still be around. Maybe there'd be a market for fucking Holdens to
hindsight's easy, right? So part of the issue is Holden didn't have a good dual cab ute. Holden didn't have.
That's not hard, bro. That's not hard to fucking pay someone to fucking do that. That's not
they
hard.
Didn't have a good SUV range, and they're the two types of cars that people buy now.
Well, but they fucked up because they bought the little Astra fucking German shit. Fucking.
They bought a bunch of stuff from Opel. They made
the Fiesta. Fiesta was shit. The Fiesta was this European piece of crap.
Nobody buys them.
It's rubbish. The automatic transmissions would break like 2-3 years in.
The best turbo diesel utes are Japanese. The best SUVs, in my view, low end are Korean, high end are European. You know, like Volkswagen and Hyundai and Kia and stuff. And that's what people buy.
Ah, man.
But it just is. That's what people buy. And if you're not selling what people want to buy, no amount of nationalism is going to make you buy a dog shit car or one that's not fit for purpose.
You know, from my childhood, from memory, I can put it down to one single car that ruined all of that for Holdens and Fords now in retrospect. Mitsubishi Magna. Fucking Magna came out. It was on television as a kid, I just saw it in high rotation. Every magazine, every fucking commercial break was the fucking Mitsubishi Magna.
Yep.
And everyone on the fucking road. You'll never see one on the road because they're shit cars. They'll fucking die within a couple of years.
Fell apart.
Yeah.
But they dominated because they were a credible alternative that was $5 or $6 grand cheaper than a Commodore.
That's the beginning of the end. I point my finger directly at the Mitsubishi Magna, man, because, you know, even before that, we had like the MR2, we had the Supra, and like these were not quite desirable, but they were interesting. People were like, oh, I might be able to afford a little car like an MR2 that is like your Ferrari alternative to your family car that you would have. It's your second car. And, you know, all families only had one fucking car back then.
Yeah.
We only had one
It's a toy.
car.
This is the hobby car. This is,
But whereas every house now has 3 cars, right?
Yeah, totally.
Or more. So back in that time, you had the one fucking car. So you're right. I get what you're saying, but Aussie cars were fine for that. Like 4 doors, Commodore, fucking Falcon. Come on, man. They were perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I think maybe you're right. When people started to, I need an SUV or I need all these other
the market
cars
shifted
that they didn't need.
And they weren't selling it.
Fucking shifted.
They weren't. You know what I found really interesting was how strongly people felt about the Commodore name not dying with the VF and the Gen F HSV. And I ran Street Commodores magazine at the time, so we were in it, and people were, no, you cannot let the Commodore nameplate die. You must not let it die. We don't care what you do in the future. You must have a Commodore. And then they went, all right, here's your Commodore, and gave him a Opel, like the ZB most recent Commodore.
I didn't.
And all the people that were screaming to not kill the nameplate were like, "Did you have to put it on that?
Oh,
what the fuck is that?"
So that was the beginning of the end. Then.
No V8, no V8, no V8 option.
Yeah,
front wheel drive or all wheel drive.
No.
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
The last Commodore was a front wheel drive or an all wheel drive.
Send me a link later on
bro, just on it's terrible. And I'm a Ford guy, so I shouldn't give a shit about it. And I felt really bad for all the Commodore diehards.
I didn't know that though. I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh mate. And terrible. I drove one at CUDA. We were at Hawkins event and I drove one and I went, this is the weirdest thing I've ever driven.
But how could you do that? Like, you know, you talk so fondly about like being passed down this rod, being bought this rod, and then passing it down to your daughter, and that's like, you know how much value you put in that. Like, you just know as a human being, there's things that are emotional that are only you would understand.
Yeah, totally.
If you went to races with your dad, or you had these memories and of the Holden flags and shit like that, how could you just disappear? Like you can't. I still don't believe it, man. Like this is why I had to ask you, because
it is crazy. It should never have happened, but it did.
Dude, when Apple was going down, when Apple was dying, a fucking prince from the Middle East saved them. I don't want to see Apple go. I love the brand. Here's all the money I have.
Yeah.
As if someone wouldn't do that for Holden. Come on, man. As if someone wouldn't come along with billions of dollars. Like, we all know there's hoarders in this planet. We all know there's these people that are like fucking locked up in their millionaire houses and they've got all the money in the world. As if someone didn't just come along and just go, this brand can't die. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't get
it. And now it's General Motors, who owned Holden, obviously, and they're like, oh, well, the Mustang did really well in Australia. We'll sell the Camaro there.
I don't want to see that though. See, it's not this. I don't want to.
It's coming. It's coming.
But it's not going to have a Holden badge, right?
No, Holden doesn't exist. It'll be a General Motors Camaro.
Is there any talk of Holden coming back?
No.
At all?
No. Their proving grounds have sold.
What about all those guys with bad Holden tattoos?
They're still in bad Kmart Holden t-shirts, and they still wear their Holden race team hat. And
is that shit going up?
Supercars.
Yeah, is that shit going up in price? Like all
I
the
don't know,
old
mate.
school...
There's too much of it out there. Like,
yeah, right.
limited edition Holden stuff is like 1 in a million.
What about Holdens in general? Like, if I wanted to buy a 2-door Monaro now, is it's
oh
gone
yeah,
up in price? It's gone up.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big
I'd
time.
love a 2-door Monaro if it was cheap, but if it's fucking expensive...
Yeah, no, they're not. I had a buddy trying to buy one for a little while, and he's just given up. He's like, nah, you can buy a shit one for 40 grand.
Yeah, okay.
It's like GDRs now. You can buy a shit box for far too much money.
Yeah, okay.
It's crazy, man. I bet Holden, never say never, but Holden won't be back. And to be honest, everyone's resigned themselves to the fact that they've gone. And the only way to express your relationship with the brand and enjoy it is with cars that aren't made anymore. And you know, if you love Holden,
what about the parts? What about the parts and shit for old Holdens and stuff? Like, what's going to happen with that?
Companies like Rare Spares keep a lot of that stuff going,
so
they'll keep manufacturing stuff. But it's like anything, man. There's parts that are hard or impossible to get.
Dude, Adrian, I just checked the time. Like, you and I have been ranting on for like fucking 2 hours here. But I still wanted to quickly, let's quickly, I knew that we were going to get back on fucking cars again. Golf and gardening, okay? Golf and gardening. Golf, you wrote, I'm shit at it. You wrote,
you're shit terrible at golf.
And gardening, you wrote, that one surprised me, but here we are.
Golf was something that I started playing because I had a couple of mates that played it, and it was around that time where I was taking the racing too seriously, and I started playing golf because golf wasn't cars. Here's the problem I had:
meditation,
magazine stuff, 5 days a week, cars.
Yeah.
Car events on weekends.
Yeah.
Cars. Come home, look at my car in the garage, work on my car in my spare time, and just go, fuck cars.
Yeah.
I'm going to go play golf. Now, the idea was that we escape cars and go play terrible golf and have a walk around in a nice golf course and have a couple of beers afterwards. But I play with car guys, and all we talk about is car shit. So I've got, again, nerding out on the gear. I've got an awesome set of clubs. I've got all the accessories. Until you see me swing, you'd think that I've played my whole life. Like, I look the part, but no, I'm shit at golf. But the gardening thing, dude.
Here we go. We're getting juicy.
It's still fucking weird. It's still really weird, and I'm not sure how
you're not even of that
it.
Age, though. Like, gardening. I see mostly men getting into gardening when they're
70. Let's be honest. Like, it's silly.
Let's be honest, yeah, it's an older thing.
There's a reason for it. So I like really, really, really hot food, right? Not just hot because it's beat your chest, I can eat a hot thing. I like the flavors that go with it. If it's just hot for the sake of it, no, get in the bin.
I'm allergic to chili. I'm the Asian guy here, and I'm allergic. I'm Indonesian, and I'm allergic to chili. That's ridiculous.
That's pretty weird. Go on. That's pretty weird. So
it's just a weird allergy, but you go on.
I love the shit. I love it. And I love all the different flavors and the different types of chilies and spices and whatever. I love spicy food. And one of my neighbors, this is all really recent. This is in like the last year. One of my neighbors said, yeah, we grew a chili plant in our garden. Come here, have a look. And they've got this big chili plant. And they said, we bought it from Bunnings or from the garden center or whatever because we like a little bit of chili in some things. And then we ate one of the chilies off it, and our family nearly died because it's so hot.
Small little red chilies.
No, they're like... dude, they look like some Reaper hybrid thing. They bought it from a normal
You don't even
garden
know what
center.
they are.
Well, I only know their retail name. I don't know what their history is, but they've obviously been bred for heat, and they're actually really tasty. They're like 800,000 Scoville or something. Like it's like eating 100 jalapenos worth of heat in one bite, right? Like it's dumb, but they're delicious. And they said, "Do you want the plant? Because it's got to go. It's awesome and it's huge and it produces a heap of fruit, but it's got to go." I'm like, I want a chili plant. So I transplanted it into my garden just outside this window. And then I went, well, I don't always want super hot ones.
Yeah.
I'll get some normal heat ones.
Yeah, I get you.
And while I'm at Bunnings, I see there's habaneros and there's this and that. So now in my very small backyard, I've got planters everywhere. I've got about 10 different types of chili plant growing. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing that, you can grow anything in dirt. So now we've got tomatoes and we've got beetroot and we got and
that's different to gardening. Like,
I'm not out there for hours on the weekend tending.
No, yeah, but it wasn't the gardening I was thinking of. You're talking about like, fuck, this stuff can go to your pan. This stuff
totally.
goes into,
yeah.
Dude, that's not what I thought gardening was. Like, I thought gardening was like trimming shit and fucking botanical fucking names of like pretty plants and shit. Like,
dude, I don't even mow my own lawns.
Dude, you're being a hunter-gatherer here. Like, this is fucking cool. Like, that's fucking cool. That's not gardening like what I thought you were gardening. Like,
no, I sort of wanted to make you think a little bit, but no, it's not. I'm not trimming
that's
hedges
cool.
and whatever. And dude, now I'm making my own chili sauce and shit. And
dude, even if I had herbs out there, I'd fucking love it. Like the amount of times that I'm just like frying some eggs and some shallots would be fucking nice, or like, and I'm using dried flaky shit that has no flavor whatsoever.
Yeah,
but
so dude, I'm doing that now, and my daughter's got a kick out of it too. She's like, "Oh, can we grow some of this?" I'm like, "Sure." The answer's yes, always. Like, let's do some cool stuff. So
dude, that's fucking rad.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
And I get to like stink the house out. My wife and my daughter do not like spicy food, so I get to like fuck up the kitchen for a little while so that you can't even breathe. And
I'm seriously starting to sweat. Yeah, I am sweating. Like, I'm so allergic to chili that if I watch like someone on MasterChef making a chili dish, I'll start sweating.
Just
so you
psychosomatic.
So even you just mentioning chili, I'm starting to.
Yeah, wow.
I can feel like my head's just starting to sweat.
Are you sure you're Indo?
Half Indo, half Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
well, the same shit. Like, I should be.
That's not watering that shit down.
Yeah, I'm fucking a weirdo, man. But I love chili though. So my best friends, like, when we go out for chili, like, it's usually at their houses, and I'll order Uber Eats.
Yeah.
And we'll order some chili as fuck dishes.
Yeah.
And I'll borrow a towel and I'll wrap it around my head like a turban.
Yeah.
And I'll fucking sweat my ass.
So you still give it a crack?
I fucking love the flavors, like you're saying. Like I've been to Thailand, and if anyone in Sydney thinks they love Thai food, they've never had Thai food until they've gone to Thailand. Right. And it's like the pans are like, it's like we know that our vegetables are better than theirs. Like, I just know that Australian produce is fucking awesome.
Okay.
But when you have some like just some fucking beans, some fucking deep fried, like just fucking fried beans in a pan.
Yeah.
When you go to Thailand, there's something about the heat is so hot that the beans come out, and you've just got a bowl of rice. You put a bean in your mouth, and the crunch, it's almost like 20 decibels louder than the crunch that you would have from an Aussie bean.
Yeah, fuck, I need to go to Thailand now.
You would die.
That's awesome.
It's something about the way they cook it. It's like how you're saying, like, you might have the faster car, but then I'm still going to beat your fucking ass in my car that has less power. So they've got this technique down pat with how they capture the heat and how they cook the vegetables. Their vegetables might not be better than ours. Ours are fucking organic and fucking cost 10 times more. But the way they seal that flavor in, and when you bite down, you're like, that's Thai food. Like,
yeah, come on, man. I need that now.
Yeah, you need that. And even it's the same with Japan, man. Like, when I go to have sushi here, it's like a fucking block of rice. The block of rice is like stiff. I can hold it up, I can wag it around, and it's not going to break. In Japan, you go for like, you spend $600 for like some sushi. Every single rice grain, when you put in your mouth, explodes to a point where you can feel individual rice grains.
Yeah, it's an experience, right?
It's not a fucking cake like it is here. You bite into sushi and it's like a fucking biscuit. It's like goosh, and you can hold it. It's like mush. It's like fucking cake. Whereas
are you sort of glad that you've had it, but it ruins everything else from then on?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Like Charles Carr from Auto Salon, Mark Bakula, we all went to Tokyo with Babalui, and they had an interpreter, and the interpreter took us to where he thought was the best ramen in Japan. And we were on fucking train. We hopped off the train. We hopped on another train. We ended up in this tiny
to go eat noodles
somewhere. Yeah. It's like we're in fucking Tokyo, bro. There's like heaps of ramen around here.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we just fucking go to a restaurant?
Yeah.
No. I want to take you to where I live, my suburb, you know? And we're under an underpass. There's fucking underpass highways above us. These guys are like a povo down the bottom. And it was a coin-operated machine. It was no kidding. You put your coins into a machine, you order your ramen. The cook gets the fucking ramen. There's dry noodles hanging everywhere, so you know that they made their own noodles.
Yeah,
you know that it's not coming out of a packet. This is like fucking
real
and
deal.
Like we all had huge beers, like fucking huge beers. Best night ever. And the whole mission for Mark Bakula, you ask Mark, you ask Charles. Well, Charles was living in Sydney at the time.
Yeah.
We spent the next maybe 3 or 4 months in Sydney looking for ramen that was as good. We went through the phone books. We went through every fucking ramen joint in Sydney City, and we could not find anything close to what we had. So yeah, I don't know. Like, if you love your spices, like go to Indonesia, go to Thailand. Have, you know, like we all love mee goreng, right? Everyone in Sydney goes on about, oh, save so much money having mee goreng. Like, fuck, even I go to Indonesian restaurants here and I have mee goreng. It's nothing like Indonesian mee goreng. When you have Indonesian mee goreng, it gets served to you with just the noodles, but then you have like 6 or 7 fucking condiments. And that all adds to this simple dish. And the complexity is through the roof. Like, you can add more heat if you want and more of this and that. But when you order a takeaway, it's like a styrofoam box of noodles. And then you have 7 vials of plastic.
Yeah,
and it's just like, and it's like, which ones do I add? How much do I add?
How much of each?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've always said, like, my whole family here is like, we would love to open that in Sydney. If we could open that shop in Sydney, every single Indo would be enough for us to make it a gold mine. Because where
would you put it? Where are all the Indonesians in Sydney?
It doesn't matter. They would go for it because they know in Indonesia that is the only shop that serves mee goreng like it should be done. And they're like the In-N-Out burger of Indonesia.
Yeah, wow.
Fuck you. We're never going to open an In-N-Out in Australia because you guys don't have the same potatoes as we do. You guys don't have the same dirt as we do. Yeah, it's the same thing. They're like, fuck you. It's not going to be the same.
So we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Man, I remember the guys that lived across the road when I grew up, when I was probably 8 until I was about 13. Ken and Yui, Vietnamese dudes. They taught me how to ride a BMX with no hands, and like, whenever I go to they come to my house, and if they're eating lunch at my house, it's like a ham sandwich. If I'm eating lunch at their house, first of all, you go into their house. You go into my house, and there's my sister, my mum, and my dad, and me. You go into their house, and there's 3 generations, both sides,
grandmas,
and it's crazy. And I'd come in, and it's like, oh, our 3 children are here. Well, it's lunchtime. You got to eat, and the shit that I would eat, like, little white Aussie dude walking through my street in Wollongong, chewing on a bit of sugar cane like it's the most natural thing in the world, because that's what you do when you're at my buddy's house, right?
That's fucking mad, man.
It's unreal.
I love that about being in Australia, though.
Yeah.
You would have had like all the fucking... You would have had pho, the beef noodle soups, and you would have had that from
everything.
When you were a kid.
Crazy shit. And now when I go out, like, people go, oh, let's go out and get pho. I'm like, okay. Do you know a particularly good place, or like, is it novelty or what? Because it was called lunch when I was a kid, because it was on the other side of the street, and it was amazing. And like, hey, they enjoyed their ham sandwiches at my house.
Absolutely. But then, look, I still enjoy my ham. That's the thing. Like, there's something. It's all about a marriage of flavors, right?
Yeah.
Like ham and cheese, tomato on bread that's slightly toasted for a bit of texture. Oh my God.
Yeah. I used to swap lunches in high school. I used to catch a school bus.
Me too.
And on the way to school, I'd swap my boring ass white bread sandwich in Glad wrap for the fresh burek that my Masso mate, his mum had made.
You know why? Because of racism, man.
Oh, I'm telling you right now. So good.
if my mum kept making me like fucking fried rice and shit and stuff like that, I'm like, Mum, that's why I'm being beaten up every day. It's like, Mum, give me some fucking pocket money so I can buy meat pie.
I need a pie from the canteen.
No. They're like, no. She's like, no, your dad says no to pocket money. You got to have... So then she started making sandwiches. Put the fucking spaghetti from last night in a Jaffa in foil. When I open it, it's wet and soggy.
Soggy.
I'm like to every fucking Aussie mate of mine, I'd be like, can I have a bite? Can I have a bite of your Chico roll? Can I have a bite of your fucking meat pie?
That's brutal.
That was my whole life, man. It was like all I wanted was enough money, pocket money, to just buy meat pie and just fit in.
Even once a week.
Dude, that's why I still love pies so much today. It's just like...
Dude, how good are pies?
Fucking... the shittiest pie will still make my day.
Yeah.
Like... It's just... It's a racism thing. It's just like... Fried rice will not make my day, bro. It doesn't matter. I'll have my fried rice. I'm like, it's shit. I can be critical of it. But if I go to the fuel station and 7-Eleven and get a pie, I'm just
get
like...
Get a Mrs. Max and some sauce.
The more fucking grizzle in it, the better, man. Like, so good.
I just want to eat all of the stuff. Like, when I grew up, my mum was an okay cook, but we'd have lasagna one night. We'd have lamb chops another night. We'd have spaghetti one night. We'd have steak another night. We'd have like sausages and mashed potato another night. Repeat.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go out for a big dinner, you might go to a Chinese restaurant and have some Mongolian lamb.
Did you guys used to order like how we did and share it in the middle of the table?
Fuck yeah.
Well, fucking oath, because you knew. But honestly, like my local Chinese down at Coogee Beach.
Yeah.
My dad's mate ran a restaurant there, and we'd go in there and you'd see Aussie guys and they would just eat like the whole fucking sweet and sour pork to themselves.
That's too much, man.
Mate, I know, it's disgusting, bro. Their mate would be eating the lemon chicken, the whole fucking dish to themselves. I'm like, guys, put it in the center and everybody share a bit, you know?
If you put it in the center and everybody shares, then nobody finishes anything and there's leftovers, and leftover Chinese food is even better.
Oh, you know, that's the way we used to eat too. So I used to watch my relos eat, and they'd be like fast bowling the fucking bowl, the little white bowls, and
little ones.
And like as kids, we'd be like trying to copy that. Like, how the fuck do you do that? But you realize, like, the rice at the end of the dish, at the end of the meal, is the tastiest because you've had a little bit of this.
It's got everything in it. That's mad. I still can't fast bowl it. Shit'll go everywhere.
No, I'm not. I'm the same, man. But you know, like that's the thing. Like I don't eat much Asian food. Like I don't eat much Chinese food or Thai food or whatever. But I'm a bit of a sucker now for like, I'll happily pay for a cow that's been like fucking massaged or like fed alcohol.
That Wagyu life.
The fucking grain fed. If it's being grain fed, I'm like, you know, I understand that, but at the same time, like I have enough fucking junk food and Maccas and shit because I'm single. I'm not like you, bro. I don't have a fucking garden like you have.
Yeah. It's getting there, man. It's getting there. I'll once I've got enough to actually make a full meal of something with, you know, some of all of it. It's going to be so good.
Dude, you're going to have fucking cows and lambs before you know it, bro. The way you're going. You're going to have like, next thing you know, you're going to be fucking skinning your own animals and shit.
Well, I've bought half a cow before, and I've bought a whole lamb before, like butchered. I'm not going to name it. And it's awesome. Like, you have no idea until you start buying it yourself just how expensive shit is. And I'm thinking just now, whinging about eating lamb chops every week. Do you know how fucking expensive lamb is when you got to pay for it?
Dude, like, I know, but it's so good. Like, for someone like me who doesn't know how to cook, right? If
you can't cook at all,
I can make breakfast and I can make simple pasta dishes, right?
Yeah.
But if you give me any cut of lamb, like it's just a really tasty meat. It's got so much nice oils on it. And it's like, if you overcook it, fuck it. I'm going to cook it even more. I'm going to make it crunchy and crispy.
Yeah,
If you cook it right, like lamb has, like, I am into the gaminess. You know, I understand, like, when people watch Joe Rogan and they listen to all of his fucking manifestation, fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
He goes on about how men are so out of touch with being the hunter. Like he loves getting people who live off the land in Alaska and stuff on his show. Because these guys are like dreaming of a moose to turn up. And then when the fucking moose finally turns up, they kill the moose and they realize, oh my God, I have to skin this thing now.
That's not where it ends.
And they spend half the day. And then they're like, I have to log it bit by bit all the way back to my camp. And then the wolves are here. I need to raise it up so the wolves don't get it. And it's like, that's what it is to be a man. We've all forgotten.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're eating every single bit. And like, they're figuring out how to cook it. They're like, oh, that's disgusting. I'm going to cook it for longer. Oh, now it's fucking amazing. And every little bit, the bone marrow, they're sucking it out. And like, oh my God.
What about all the cuts of meat, like brisket, that's the new hotness that people are smoking? That's a cheap-ass cut of meat that no one used to eat.
Except for the Chinese. We love that shit, right?
Totally. But it was always the throw it away shit. And now it's fancy and...
fuck that's what I mean by trends, man. Fuck the trends. Like these guys will, as soon as they educate themselves on something, they're jumping on the next thing anyway. Like that's the sad thing about it. And then they fuck everybody else that's been eating brisket for all this time.
Yeah.
Because now the prices are up.
Bandwagoning.
Exactly. So the bandwagoning is like the Fast and Furious. What they did, like when we had Zen Garage and some guy came into our shop with like, because we said, if you have anything cool to donate to the space, bring it over. We'll fucking display it. It'll make the space look cooler. Some guy comes in with a Tokyo Drift fucking Fast and Furious poster. I'm like, bro. I'm like, get out. You know, no, but no, I didn't mean to offend him, bro. I didn't mean to, he was did. But he was so crushed. And that's the thing. Like, that was the beginning of the end for me. It's like, I have to be a realist at the end of the day. Like, that's what I love about you too, bro. Like, that's the thing. Like I said earlier in the podcast, you remind me of someone from high school in that you haven't really changed. Like you're still gonna be this passionate guy who's sort of obsessive compulsive about something. Like you're into what you're into.
Yeah.
You know, but you geek out over shit. It's not like, you know, there's a whole lot of people out there that think geeks are fucking uncool. But man, if I feel more sorry for the people who don't geek out about anything.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're into something. Well, how into it are you?
That's why I said the byline for Zen Garage is it's okay if you don't get it, because if I'm geeking out about something and you're paying me out because you think it's fucking stupid, I'm like, I don't care if you don't understand what I'm into. I'm fucking into it. So
I always liked that tagline because it was rebelling against the notion of anyone criticizing what you were doing. It was, let me save you the trouble. I don't give a shit if you don't like it. It doesn't matter. It's not a problem.
No offense to you, bro. Like,
no problem. Have a great day.
Yes.
It's fine. You don't have to get it. We get it. We fucking love this shit.
Yeah, and I'm not angry at you either. Like, that's the thing. Like I get it that you don't get it, but it's okay.
Dude, half the cars I saw at Zen, well, and the few times that I visited, I'm like, not in a million fucking years would I drive that. And not a single person there gave a fuck what I thought, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was very cool. It was very cool. It wasn't flexing. It was just like, oh, cool. you don't get it. That's all right. And there's still shit I don't get. There's still shit I don't get. That 180 I drove on Wednesday night, I don't get it. I don't get why the wheels don't match. I don't get why a car that's a street car has wheels sticking out like that. I don't get why it's this far off the ground, I wanted a car that far off the ground back in the day.
But you get it more than people that really don't get it.
Oh yeah, like compared to someone who doesn't get cars.
You do, and you're not saying you don't get it. You're a little bit different. You do get that, but you're just.
It's not my thing.
It's not your thing. That's all. That's a little bit.
I get why there's an appeal in lots of stuff. Like
you're a respectful guy. Like you said that you're a Ford guy, but you were running like fucking Holden shit and stuff.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit of a different case already.
I mean that's why that was the appeal for me in Performance Garage when we started that title in the magazine days, in the Express days, because the thing that I didn't want in that title from the start was a story about a car unless the car had, anthropomorphized into this personality and it had a story of its own. I didn't want a story about a car, and I didn't want anything that mentioned a car to tell me what the specs were.
I get you.
Because that magazine was new in its own right, but it was also distributed with Hot Fours, Fast Fours, Performance Imports, Street Commodores, Street Fords, Extreme Holdens. All of these different magazines had a copy of Performance Garage with it, right? So if you're telling me what cams are in your Honda, and there's a guy who's just bought a magazine with an HQ Monaro on the cover, what does he give a shit what cams are in your car? But if the story about that is about the guy who owns the Honda, about how he saved his last penny to buy it and it was stolen and he recovered it and he painted it, but the paint job was dog shit. The guy with the HQ is going to go, I can totally relate to that. And before they know it, they've read the whole story and love the magazine. Right?
Dude, I'm with
because
you.
We got so much in common, even though there's nothing about Hondas that appeals at all.
Yeah.
I can't think of a situation where I can relate to the guy and the struggles that he's had to get his car where it is.
You can relate to a story. You can relate to, like, that's why when Charles asked me to do a feature on my GTR, he just said, Justin, I want you to write it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, fuck, you can't. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
But it's like, over all those pages, they were all my words. And it's like, I get what, in retrospect now, I understand what he was trying to do.
Did you find it really difficult to write about it?
Of course, man. I've been blogging about it for years, but like to actually write about it was like, a bit of pressure was on, and like, I found it hard to start, Sometimes it's hard. This is the thing, man. Like, Adrian, like, you and I are more than happy to share our stories, but a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
That is the sad truth.
Yeah.
The sad truth is I meet a lot of people that would love to hear me tell my story.
Yeah.
And they'll just sit there and listen to it. They'll listen to you all fucking day and listen to your story. But it's like, they don't feel like maybe they're confident enough to tell you their story. And that's the thing. Like, I think I've spent a whole lot of my life trying to inspire other people to like get out of their shells and be just like me. But like, at some point I've just realized it's just not working.
Yeah. I mean, it's you probably discover some stuff about people along the way just from the pursuit of that, whether it comes off or not. You know what I mean? Like, if you're encouraging people to try something, even if they don't do it, maybe they'll consider it, or
planting seeds is enough. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice thing, but it's like I just don't think people are ready to even talk to complete strangers anymore. I think it's getting worse. Like, I've taken friends out and I've seen them at a cafe, and I'm start talking to a complete fucking stranger next to me about some shit.
Yeah,
and they don't join in.
Yeah, right.
And I've seen it, and it's like, I can't help myself. I don't want to sound like the old cuckoo fucking talk to the person next to me all the fucking time.
So the miserable old man in me says, and I've felt this for a long time, but not from as negative a perspective as it sounds. When I meet a new person, I kind of, most of me expects them to be a tool. But
really?
I remain open to the possibility that they're not.
Right.
And
they might surprise you. They might surprise you.
But I'm not disappointed if they are a tool.
All right. Okay.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Nothing lost. Yeah.
And but that's my base expectation. I'm like, they're probably a fuckwit.
What? Because they're young, or
no? Anybody.
Any age group.
Anybody.
Really?
Any new person I meet, I'm like, there's a chance they're probably a dickhead.
Really?
Yeah, but
that's horrible, bro.
But still have a conversation with them and give them. It's not about giving them the opportunity to not be a fuckwit. It's just being prepared for the fact that if they are, I'm not emotionally invested in it. I haven't lost anything by having the conversation. It's more about having everything to gain. It's the ground truth is that it's
how you're going to react to it if they are a fuckwit. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not invested in a relationship or overly invested in a conversation. What do? You have a chat with someone, they turn out to be a dickhead. You go, oh, well, there's plenty of dickheads. That's not a problem.
I think similar to what you're saying, but I think like when people see me, they're going to judge me because of what I'm wearing or my hair or how I look or my tattoos or some shit. But then I know that I can put in harder work to get them to like me. But then now I'm at an age where do I even want to bother? It's like I'll run into someone that's a complete stranger. I know that if you give me an hour with this person, we'll have some good D&Ms and we'll get along.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to put more of the work in to get there.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm feeling right now.
It comes to a point where the give a shit factor kicks in, and it's like, well, how much am I prepared to invest to have a positive outcome?
Then at the same time, like, do you have fanboys, by the way? Do you have like?
I don't think so.
For
the things I'm involved with, yeah, there's like Summernats super fans. Summernats super fans. There's people that live and breathe it. Yeah.
Yeah, like how do you deal with that? Because I have like people who, like today, you wouldn't believe this, but today I was the fucking model in a photo shoot. Like
I totally believe that, dude.
No, but a guy who does like streetwear photography wants to put me in his book. He's starting a book on inspirational people, and like I shoot girls for a living.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fucking model. So I felt so awkward as fuck. I felt fat. I felt ugly.
Oh, really? You got there that quick?
Dude, my stomach is sticking out, bro. So I'm trying to suck it in. And it's like, fuck. Am I smiling right now? I don't even know. Am I looking?
Am I supposed to be smiling?
I can't even tell what my fucking face is doing, bro. I'm like, bro, tell me what to do. He goes, yeah, just lean forward. I'm like, fuck, how do I lean forward? You know, and it's just like, it was so awkward as fuck, man. And it's like, he was then, after the shoot, he was hanging around talking about like fucking Zen Garage and this and that, and like a bit of a fanboy. And
wow.
I'm just like, fuck, like, I don't know, like, do you have that? Like, it's because it's really weird for me, because it's like when honestly, if I do see a celebrity on the street, I feel the same way, but I can't. It feels weird. Like I'll just go, "Oh my god, that's like, you know, fucking." I've seen someone from The Matrix, the movie. I love that movie, so I was like, "Oh my god," you know. But I was too scared to ask for an autograph and shit.
I only really get it, but like it's just an extension of when you go to a party and you don't know anyone, and you're introduced as their friend, the host's friend who's into cars. Oh, you're into cars, aren't you?
Yeah,
and it's
and then you go, then you fucking Summernats and you fucking all these
but
magazines.
It's just a different version of that. It's just a different version of that, and it's like, what do you do? Oh, I work for an events company. Okay, cool.
Everyone's heard of Summernats.
What kind of event? What kind of events?
Yeah,
car festivals. Oh, like any that I've ever heard of, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, we're having the conversation. Yeah, have you heard of Summernats? Well, just about everyone's heard of Summernats. What's that like? Yeah. And the real honest answer a lot of the time is it's work. But to be perfectly honest, it's fucking awesome work. So most of the time, I'm prepared to have the conversation. People get so much enjoyment out of something that you help do. And they're so excited, and it's not. I'm not the celebrity, right? I'm not the.
You don't have that vibe, but that's what I mean about. I said from early on in this podcast, man. You don't exude that ego, but that's why I was so excited to do a podcast with you, because you have done so much more than so many people that have been on my podcast. But you're not the kind of person to wear it on your sleeve and on your outfit and on the outside. Like, that's the weird thing about you. It's like a lot of guys don't know how much you've been involved in this car scene before they came along. But you're not the kind of person to put your arm up and wave around and sort of, you know,
I don't have an end game that would benefit.
Well, that's why I said I was so happy to see the video, because you posted that video to me this morning and I watched it, and you're in it, and you're the star. Sorry, but you are the star of the show in that video.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you know, it's almost like it's taken this long for you to be the star of the show or the video. It's really weird.
It's funny. It's when I started doing event commentary, helping out Jamboree and the Sport Compact guys, because I can speak in whole sentences and I really understand the subject matter.
You're like a super intelligent guy.
I've raced in that. I've raced in that category, if you want to call it that. I've raced at those events. I know all of the players, and I can speak from a position of knowledge. But not on camera. You're always up in the box with a headset on, and they can only hear you, and you can't hear yourself coming out over the PA. Doesn't matter if there's 20,000 people there.
No, but we've always known
that's easy though,
man.
But that's
we've always known.
But that's easy to do, right? Give me the radio mic and put me in front of those 20,000 people years ago, before I'd had enough experience not being in front of them, but them hearing me. Different story. When they're actually all looking at you, it's a different thing, man. It's a different thing.
But look at Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan's only the world's most famous podcaster because he's a UFC live commentator, and he's commentating live. So you got to know your shit to commentate live, which you did. So you knew all your shit about motorsport, and you're commentating on it live. He just happened to have a camera on him every now and then.
Yeah,
it wasn't throughout the fight. The fight is, the cameras are focused on the fighters.
Yeah.
And eventually, slowly but surely, you start to see this Joe Rogan guy. And then, like, now he's doing these podcasts. Is like the fucking $100 million from Spotify.
Yeah, that was huge.
So, dude, don't you feel like that's kind of maybe the cusp that you're at? It's kind of like you're in Summernats now. So I didn't know this, okay, by the way. Like, before we even did this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you're a part of the Summernats family. That's how long it's been since you and I've caught up.
Yeah.
But like, it's nice then for us to end this conversation on the fact that you sent me a video. You're the star of the show. Oh shit, you're in the Summernats. You're part of the family.
Yeah.
And you've got a fucking garden. You golf and you fish, and you give up cars to fish.
Yeah.
And I think you're coming full circle. That's what I feel. I just feel like maybe you're getting to a point in your life now where who knows what might happen next. But I do believe, like, just by doing this podcast, right? Yeah. And I do believe, like, where Hawkins' podcast did really well for him, because I have so many private messages, so many that I have not sent on to Hawkins, by the way.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of time to send them on to him. But so many people loved that podcast because
it was a really good chat, man.
Well, they thought something of Hawkins, and after listening to that, they thought a lot more of Hawkins.
I can see that, dude. What a lot of people, I know we want to finish, but what a lot of people don't appreciate about the difference between me being on camera, as an example, in the video that I sent you yesterday, or appearing in the TV shows around the events, or popping up in commentary or whatever, and what Andrew does is that I work for someone.
Yeah.
And he is the start, middle, and end of everything that he does. And it is impossible. It is impossible. Not just unlikely or improbable or difficult. It is impossible to do what he does, to create the content that he does, to have the hustle that guy does. It is impossible to not present the way he does in his content. It's impossible to present the way he does in his content without some people automatically going, wanker.
Yeah, I didn't mean that podcast to like go into talking about haters, but like I said in the podcast, every time I catch up with that guy at a car meet, he talks about the haters, and call it a naive part of me or whatever you want to call it, but I was like, dude, why do you talk about the haters so much, man? Let's talk about like some cool shit instead, you know?
He's a shit stirrer like us, dude. It gives him energy. Honestly, it gives him energy.
He's fucking cool, man. He knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. Like, he had a go at me a couple of times in the podcast, and I fucking love him for it. Like, him and I aren't best mates, and neither are you and I best mates.
No,
but it's a growing up fucking respect. You know what I mean? Like, I totally understand that you've done shit that I will never do. And probably vice versa.
Exactly.
And it's just the way it is. It's like you said, so long as you're happy that some of these people exist in the world and they're doing what they're doing.
Totally.
Then that's awesome. That's the way life is, you know?
Man, the car scene is better for the people that are in it. And I can tell you that the Sydney car scene, the JDM car scene, whatever you want to call it, is better for Justin Fox and Zen Garage's input, even though it's not relevant to anything that I'm personally interested in.
Right.
From a altruistic perspective of, I want the car scene to be vital and to flourish and to be strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a better, you've left it a better place than when you entered it.
Yeah.
And dude, the stuff that Hawkins is doing now and the stuff that a whole bunch of other people are doing now, where 20 years ago we were so narrow in our thinking, so inward looking in our thinking. What does it benefit me? Does it benefit me and my business? No. You
could run it like the 70s and the 80s and be like IBM versus Mac, or fucking Steve Jobs versus Bill Gates. Fuck that shit, bro. Life is way too short for that.
It's too hard, man.
You're both into computers, for fuck's sake. You both should be best mates.
Yeah, smoke up and relax. Everybody just needs to chill the fuck out. That's my message to the car scene. Whatever it is, chill the fuck out. You'll live longer.
I think it's your message to the fucking anyone who's listening.
You'll live longer. Chill out. It's great.
I think go easy on yourselves, but also I have to say you gotta work. You gotta fucking get into something, okay? I have to say it. Like you're obviously the kind of guy. We went through fucking cars, and we kept coming back to cars, but there was bikes, there was fucking golfing, there was fucking gardening, there's a family. Oh my God. If you're 20-year-old and you're listening to this shit and you think you have problems.
Nah, bro. The best you can do if you're 20 years old is be into something.
Yeah.
Go easy on yourself. Be fucking all the way into it. All the way into it. Try not to be a fucking pest. And just be cool to people.
Yeah, make mistakes.
Fuck, we're old.
Oh my God, bro. Well, hey, you're still wearing an exploded RB26 t-shirt. I still have a mohawk, just it kind of doesn't go all the way down anymore because I've got a bald patch fucking back of my head. Yeah. But even that photographer today that was shooting me, I'm like, don't shoot me from the back. Bro, I'm like, tell me to suck it in when
my barber gives me this one behind my head. I'm like, bro, no.
Blow, I don't want to see that shit.
No, fuck off. I'll take your word for it. You did a good job. Thanks.
Bro, we can go for hours. We need to do this again. This has been the longest podcast I've ever done.
Fuck yeah. You got to cut it down, man. No one's going to listen to this shit.
I don't care. That's the thing.
Who cares?
I don't care. But this has been the longest podcast I've done at 3 hours.
Is it already? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You're a legend. You're a legend, bro. You're a legend. I loved it. I love you, bro. You take it easy. Stay in touch, man. Maybe not so fucking long before we
maybe not so many years.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Bro, stay on the line. I'm gonna hit stop recording, but stay on the line for a second, yeah?
You got it.
Guys, that was Adrian Hodgson. I will leave all your links in the description below. If you've made it this far, holy shit.
Wow.
You're a fucking legend. If you've made it this far, you are a fucking legend and you deserve all the positivity coming your way. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.